offers tonight's invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we truly thank you for all your blessings, Lord, and we thank you for this beautiful weather tonight and throughout this past weekend. Father, we just come to you tonight asking your blessings upon this race. It may be a safe race. And Lord, we also ask your blessings upon our country and upon every individual that's serving our country around the world. Lord, watch over them. Once again, Lord, we pray that you may God bless America. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Here tonight to honor America with the singing of our national anthem from Louisville, Kentucky, please welcome the Thoroughbred Chorus.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
A state known for horsepower. We're about to fire the engines up and see some real horsepower here at Kentucky Speedway.
It was a beautiful day, the sun beat down, I had the radio on, I was driving singing. Little runaway, I was flying. Yeah, running down a dream that never would come to me. Working on a mystery, going wherever it leads. Running down a dream. Yeah, running down a dream that never would come to me. Running down a dream. Oh, yeah, running down a dream.
It's Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. Telecast presented by Toyota. Let's head down to pit road and Dave Burns.
Rick, how big is your trophy case? If you're Kyle Busch, you need one alone just for your Kentucky trophies. He has 8 wins over 4 different series here, going for number 9 tonight, Parker.
Dave, unless you've been under a rock, you know Ricky Stenhouse Jr. did not make many friends at Daytona. And that's not a smart thing to do when you're 19 points out of the playoffs. So what did his crew chief and he, Brian Patty, have a meeting about yesterday? Racing smart. That's what they need to do if they want to be in playoff contention come the end of this summer, Kelly.
Hey, Eric Jones has a new trophy, and just 1 week after scoring his first ever NASCAR win, he and his team are already switching up the playbook. Crew Chief Chris Gale told me that he spent all of final practice in qualifying trim focused on his starting position. Well, that work has paid off. They'll be starting from the front row, and they think they have a car good enough to keep it there, Marty.
Kelly, over the last 3 races, Ryan Blaney hasn't finished better than 18th. In fact, he told me it's been pretty disastrous and kind of taking the wind out of the sails here on the 12 team. He told me we cannot have any more problems the rest of the regular season. But tonight, we don't need a win. All we need is a solid top 10 finish, get the momentum going in the right direction before the playoffs hit. Rick?
And just 8 races until the playoffs begin, so everyone fighting for every point, every position, and that is why we love the way the racing has gone already this season. Everyone fighting for every spot on the racetrack. Let's get the engines fired. We go trackside for the command.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome America's favorite fisherman, Jimmy Houston.
I want to wish you good luck to all my fishing buddies that are driving tonight. Drivers, crank your engines!
Fire and hold. Fired up, you ready? Start up. Cabin out.
We're looking forward to another incredible night of racing in Kentucky.
Running down a dream that never would come to me. Working on a mystery, going wherever it leads. Running down a dream.
NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Monster Energy, unleash the beast. Subway Restaurants. And by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Trying to take the lead away.
Watch out!
I mean, really? Really?
This is going to be a finish we'll be talking about.
Here comes the 18.
On your door, on your door.
And Kevin Harvick's going to win.
That's a teammate right there, everybody.
A dozen cars will crash and collide. Sparks fly.
He puts the bumper to the back of him. Kyle Busch will win.
Wow.
Eric Jones has won at Daytona. Some great moments already on the 2018 season, and we anticipate even more coming from right here in the Bluegrass State, Kentucky Speedway. Want to take a look at tonight's starting grid, brought to you by Toyota. Up front, Martin Truex Jr. dominated this race last year, had a 15-second lead until a late caution. He had to fight through a restart to get the win, but he ended up getting that win. And Eric Jones, what momentum he has coming off his big win last week in Daytona. The big three all in the first three rows. You see Kevin Harvick there in row 2 and row 3. Kyle Busch, a two-time winner right here at this racetrack. Back behind them, Ryan Blaney and Clint Boyer making up row number 4. Clint Boyer, 2 wins already this season. Back in row 5, Ryan Newman, the 40-year-old Purdue grad from South Bend, Indiana, will start 10th. Daniel Suarez and Eric Almirola making up row 6. Eric Almirola didn't even run in this race last year because he had broke his back at a previous race in Kansas coming into this one. Back in 7, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Then in 8, Alex Bowman. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman making his 100th Cup Series start tonight. I mentioned Clint Boyer is going to start in the 8th position up in row 4. Let's see if we can dial him up on the radio, Jeff.
Hey, Clint, it's Burton. You with us?
I got you, Jeff.
Man, this racetrack is a tough racetrack. Tell us which part of it you like and which part you don't.
I like clean air. That's a good thing to have at this racetrack. This track is challenging, man. It's so hard to balance, you know, the front and rear. You roll through 1 and 2 with so much speed. You get down into 3, carrying all that momentum. It's really flat getting in over there. You could bust your butt in a hurry down there in 3 and 4. But that's what it's all about. You got to be good in the middle of 3 and 4. Get that point off of 4. If you can do that, we'll be up here in this clean air, like I said.
How about the restarts, Clint? Last night it was crazy in the Xfinity race. You expecting the same tonight?
I expect you to be hoarse by the end of the night. How about that?
Well, we hope so, but good luck to you, man. Have fun.
Hi, buddy. Thanks.
Well, we're lucky enough to talk to Clint riding along with the Mobile One camera. Denny Hamlin, he's got this awesome helmet cam brought to us by Coca-Cola. Kyle Larson, unexpectedly, going to have to go to the back. So with this 360 cam brought by Coca-Cola again, is going to give us some good shots. He missed driver introductions, so we're going to have to start in the back. And then Toyota's letting us ride along with Kyle Busch. Row 3 starting in 5th position.
And Steve, this race, just over 400 miles. Break it down for us.
Yeah, Rick, as you mentioned, 400 miles, 267 laps. The first and the second stage, both 8 laps in length. That final stage, just over 100 laps at 107. The fuel window, 62 to 65. So there's going to be a pit stop required in every segment for fuel.
Let's go back down to pit road before we get the green flag. We'll start with Dave.
Well, Rick, we've already learned that Clint Boyer expects Jeff Burton to be hoarse by the end of the night because of the restarts. That's one of the things that Rodney Childers wanted to talk to me about, where Kevin Harvick is concerned at this track. He said, surprisingly, last year, this was one of our best tracks for restarts. We hardly ever lost a spot. Something to keep an eye on with the 4-car tonight, Parker.
Dave, Jay McMurray has had a season to forget. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong on this one car, and his crew chief, Matt McCall, had a funny statement. He said, thankfully, everyone on this team is a veteran, because if there was any rookies, they would think about this season and say, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. They're hoping to turn around tonight, Kelly.
Well, yesterday, Denny Hamlin and this 11 team were having a great day until it all went wrong. In practice, they felt like they had one of the best cars on track, especially over the long run. Crew chief Mike Wheeler telling me it was one of their best cars of the year, but then they failed tech inspection twice, didn't make it out in time for qualifying. As a result, Denny Hamlin will start this one 36. See if he can put this good car to good use, Marty.
Well, Kelly heard Jeff Burton mention a moment ago, Kyle Larson missed driver introduction, something you rarely hear about here in the Cup Series. I talked to him a moment ago about it. He said, honestly, I was just with some friends. I thought I had more time. I'm more embarrassed than anything else. He literally was running 2 driver intros as they were calling his name, but he missed it on the stage. But he'll do it again because he started in the back here last year after missing qualifying, drove all the way up to finish second, and in the middle of all that, Rick had a speeding penalty. So he came from the back to the front twice here at Kentucky last year. Told me I just have to pass one more car this year to get the win.
We'll see if he's able to do that. And amazingly, the drivers have 2 responsibilities before the race. They have to be at the drivers' meeting and they have to be at drivers' introduction. Have you or Dale Jr., have you ever missed the driver introductions?
No, it's an unforced error. It's an error that you just can't make, and I had bad dreams about missing driver introductions or drivers meeting. It's just something you can't do.
Yeah, you stole my point. I've had nightmares about it too, Jeff. I've had nightmares about waking up and cars going around the track, and luckily I think I might have been late to practice a few times, but never missed a driver's meeting.
And so because of that, the 42 has to go to the back of the field. And he will have to work his way up to the front if he wants to get to victory lane tonight. In Kentucky, the lights are off on the pace car, meaning this time by they will get the green flag to get the Quaker State 400 underway. Fans waving green flags in the grandstand. Field 2x2, led by Martin Truex Jr., Eric Jones. We're racing in Kentucky.
Martin didn't get through 1 and 2 as well as he wanted to, giving Eric Jones a shot to take the lead here. Eric's way loose getting into 3.
Second groove works for Martin Truex Jr. That outside line held for him, and he holds on to lead lap 1.
Early in the race, that outside line just might not quite have the grip. Track's been sitting all day in the sun. They actually did run the tire dragging a little bit more on this racetrack, and that outside groove may take a while for those guys to clean that off.
See the 41 car, Junior, below the yellow line, getting on the apron of the racetrack.
Nose to tail now. All the way back to a little bit of a battle there between Daniel Suarez, Chase Elliott. Suarez and Elliott running 13th and 14th.
Chase is going to take this opportunity probably just to fall behind the 88, get himself back in line, get on the bottom, make sure no more damage is done. Jamie McMurray in that 1 car is far enough back so the 9 car could get in, get back to the bottom.
Got the helmet cam here on Denny Hamlin's car starting in the back. Gonna watch him a little bit here, work his way up through, see what a driver has to deal with. A very fast car on a track that's pretty treacherous. There's Eric Jones in a little bit of trouble off the turn 2.
Slow down the backstretch, trying to get back in line.
And I think that's what we're going to see. You know, rarely is the groove so well defined as it is here in Kentucky. You see where the cars want to be much darker than the rest of the racing surface. And when they get out of that dark, as we see 3 wide on the front stretch, Rick, as they get out of the dark where the 20 right here is going to be, he wisely lifts, gets back in line. There is definitely no 3rd lane to run through turns 1 and 2.
Kyle Busch taking 4th away, as it's Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, the top 4.
You saw Eric Jones in the 20 car losing spots. Well, there he is. He's just out of the groove. And look at the momentum that it cost him. He was running in 2nd place. Got up out of the groove, had to lift off the throttle, killed his speed down the back straightaway, and now everybody's just coming to take that spot.
He saved. Sorry, Ricky. Saved that race car, though. I mean, that was a real close call early in the race.
He'll probably take a deep breath here, calm down a little bit, try to get back in a rhythm, but that was a real close call. Like Bowman just moved over and let Chase Elliott go. Chase must have been putting pressure on him. Decided it was in his best interest to let him go. You know, if somebody gets under you and there's a line behind them, then you're going to lose 3 or 4 spots. Alex Bowman decided he maybe could hold Joey Logano off, but not the 9 of Chase Elliott.
Well, you mentioned how difficult this racetrack is. I'm keeping an eye on the 2 big names that started at the back of the field. The 11 of Denny Hamlin and the 42s. We see the 10 of Eric Almirola compete a pass. The 42 also of Kyle Larson, as you documented, Rick, missed driver introductions. He's been kind of chasing Denny Hamlin through the field. You see on the right side of your screen, working now on the 43 of Bubba Wallace Jr. Larson's doing a great job here, Dale. I think he's just kind of patiently waiting for the 11 to make a hole and then follow him through. He's not really pushing the issue himself.
Yeah, I mean, you trust the speed of the 11 car. You're working with him up through the field, and you want to be close enough to him as he starts to create opportunities for you. And like he's going to get under Bubba Wallace right here in a minute. You want to be able to fill that hole. You don't want to have enough room there for Bubba Wallace to get him back down in between you 2 guys, because that puts you in dirty air. It makes it very tough. It's real easy to see he's going to try to fill that gap. Follow Denny through, maybe go 3 wide if he really wants to. Him and Denny are pretty good buddies. I don't know if he pushes the envelope this early.
Hey, Junior, we're hearing some potential issues for both RCR cars, the 3 of Austin Dillon and his teammate Ryan Newman in the 31, the 3 of Austin Dillon, just saying that it's driving okay, but it's vibrating like crazy in there. They think there's an issue with the hub. The 31 team telling me they didn't think it had anything to do with the motor, but more of a wheel issue.
They had a wheel issue in Chicago, but that was more of a heat issue because of the brakes and the temperature out there. He'd be a little bit early to be having some heat issues or some kind of a hub heat issue right now.
Well, so I asked myself, did they burn something up in Chicago and perhaps put fresh hubs on for the race? Is this something they decided, hey, we got to keep the mileage down, so we're going to make that change? I don't know that, but if that's something that they did, that would be a concern. These may be the first laps on that component, but 400 miles, Rick, you don't want to have a vibration this early.
Well, and if it's a team thing, that means that there's got to be problems with the 31 and the 3. Marty.
Rick, we right along board with Kyle Larson, plus 15, as you saw a moment ago, since the start of the race. Now, originally, he was supposed to start 18th, and said he took the green flag in 38th, and that's a bit of a different game, isn't it, Steve? So they are very tight in traffic. Certainly, he was going to have to deal with traffic starting 18th, but when you're starting all the way back there like that, you're having to work through a ton of different cars.
Yeah, we talk about the disadvantage of starting in the back. Well, if you know that ahead of time, well, it doesn't make it any easier. You at least set your car up expecting traffic. Finding out literally minutes before the race, there's nothing the crew chief can do at that point. But I have a feeling that Larson is not going to complain much about his car, seeing how he's the guy that caused him to go to the back. He's probably going to be a little more patient with his crew chief.
Well, I think that's a great point, Steve. I think that Kyle Larson feels like he owes his team something. Right now, you kind of have more motivation to go make something happen because you cost your team all those spots. So it puts a little more pressure on you, but also sometimes it lights the wick a little bit and lets you push the button just a little harder.
Kyle Larson was supposed to start 18th. Right now he's running 23rd after starting at the back because of missing driver introductions. Martin Truex Jr., after winning the pole, has been out front all 12 laps. It's Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. Still out front, Martin Truex Jr. has about a 0.6 of a second lead over Brad Keselowski. NASCAR Drive, that's your race day companion. You don't want to miss a lap, so get NASCAR Drive. Visit NASCAR.com/drive or download the NASCAR mobile app today. There's the gap. Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, as I mentioned earlier, hasn't won in 2018 and looks to solidify a position in the playoffs. He mentioned a week ago he thought that Daytona was a must-win situation for him. A racetrack where not many people can go in and say, I have to win at Daytona, and then back it up. He was able to do it at Talladega a couple years ago, but this is a racetrack where he's got a lot of success. 3 wins already. Marty.
And Rick, you can kind of still sense the urgency on that 2 team. He's hanging with Martin Truex Jr. In fact, Paul Wolfe, Brad Keselowski's crew chief, told him earlier, stay on top of your tools. Do not let that 78 get too far away from us. Jeff, this is a race team 189 points above the cut line. Clearly they're in good shape to make the playoffs, but they seem like they are driving with a sense of urgency here in the second half of the regular season.
It was fascinating to me that he declared last week a must-win with the situation that they're in. I do believe that they're frustrated that they have not won yet. And, you know, they see these other teams, Truex, Harvick, Kyle Busch, and other teams that have won getting those playoff points. And Keselowski doesn't have the ones that he needs if he wants to get to Miami. So they need to turn the wick up now and start getting better finishes and ultimately wins.
So, Junior, we heard Marty report, don't forget your tools. They have that track bar adjuster, other things inside the car they can do to change the handling. But also on the racetrack, he's moving around a little bit, it seems, to try to find an advantage to close in on the 78.
Yeah, it won't take long for them to clean the racetrack up after it being set all day long. It just gets slick and gets kind of sweats a little bit in the sun. All the oil kind of comes to the surface, and these guys are cleaning that up. All the lap guys are running in the high lane, getting out of the way. That's cleaning up that second groove, so Brad's able to move around a little bit and try to find some grip. I think he's doing a little bit better job or has a little bit better handle on his car to be able to deal with lap traffic. That's why he's been able to keep this gap pretty close as they start to lap cars throughout the field. The tools that you talk about, got the brake, you talk about the track bar. He's also got, you know, he could have several brake levers in there, forward and back, left and right. And so there's a lot of, and he's, you know, we see Brad all the time flipping switches on the dash. Lord knows what all that stuff's doing. Plenty of tools in there to make that car handle the way he wants. Dave.
All right, Junior, let's keep talking tools. How about your team helping you over the radio, the line to drive?
I think your exit at 2 is where you're the best. Rolling 2 and through the center and 3 and 4 is where you're losing time by my eyeballs. One thing I'm seeing here is we do drive further into turn 1 than other people and using a little more brake. At 3 and 4 in the center. Just forget further. Hey, no, just manage it here.
Sometimes it's about you, sometimes it's about others, Rick.
17 is on pit road. The 3 of Austin Dillon was also just on pit road. We think that they were dealing with a vibration that the 3 was dealing with. The 17, is this an early pit stop?
I mean, in theory, he can make it all the way to lap 80 on fuel, but you definitely have no advantage to come to pit road now.
We're going to take a look here to replay, see exactly what happened. Just a little contact here with Jamie Murray down the back straightaway, and that cuts the left rear tire on the 17. He's trying, look, he's trying to, he's going to try to hang on to that thing. It's a handful right there with that left rear tire, Jeff. Parker.
Exactly, Dale. That's exactly what he rated across. He had a tire going down. He did a great job of getting out of the way and actually getting down into turn 3 because he had a lot of traffic around him. You see him pretty loose there as well right now.
Yeah, Parker, that makes me wonder about these tires on restart. So we saw the 17 come in and put tires on. He went back out and had no grip whatsoever. So is that kind of foreshadowing about how restarts are going to be on new tires? He's still having trouble. Maybe he's got a bigger problem than just having new tires on the car.
Remember using them tools, drop that track bar down and get that thing hooked up.
Yeah, he's coming back to pit road. He's got a bigger problem.
We heard Brian Patty tell him before the race, we need to race smart. We've got to make sure.
Breaking 3 on entry.
Got to make sure to get into the playoffs and back on pit road. This is not helping the 17's cause.
He's right inside too. I mean, he's right outside, so he's in there, isn't he?
Yeah, the 17
he's right inside.
His situation.
So this is a very, very serious issue for him.
He was 19 points out.
That's
and
right.
Now 38. So as they're running.
And Rick, that's only going to get worse. You know, it's one thing to have a problem in the race, but what we've seen with these stages is a problem early is double the penalty, right, Rick? Because now you're going to miss out on points in both stages probably. I'd be shocked if he somehow gets these laps back and end up in the top 10.
Now, there are other cars that are already a lap down that haven't been to pit road. Matt DiBenedetto right now running 30th, and he is the highest scored lap down car. So the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now 2 laps down, trying not to go further than that as Martin Truex Jr. continues to lead at Kentucky. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. This telecast presented by Toyota. And the 11 just on pit road, Kelly.
Yeah, and before that, Rick Denny had made up 13 positions, but it sounded like he had an issue. Take a listen.
It's going all the way down. Brake pedals all the way down. I have not used them extensively. Yeah, no brakes.
So Denny went on to say that if he was pumping the brakes, sometimes it would stay up. Otherwise, it was just straight to the floor. Just moments ago, before we came out of commercial break, they came to pit road, made a 2-tire stop.
All right, crew chief, when your driver yells at you that you have no brakes, why don't you lift the hood?
It's very hot. However, there's no fluid.
So you heard that's more information. He's getting that the right front wheel's hot, like the brakes are either overheated. No fluid, so he's letting Denny know, we don't see any fluid on the wheel, thinking we have a brake issue. As far as a leak or a problem with the caliper, this is, brake problems are very difficult during the race. You don't know if it's a temperature issue, if it's a hydraulic issue. We watched as he came to pit road, Rick, and he had enough brake to stop in the pit stall. Not saying that's enough to help on the racetrack, but at this point, you're just trying to nurse it all the way to the finish of this stage so you can work on your car.
A few more cars making their way onto pit road now. Daniel Suarez is down there, Dave.
Yes, he is. Rick pitting now, and they'll go to the right side first for Daniel Suarez, a driver who's developed so much of his racing style since racing here last year. Crew Chief Scott Graves told me this morning they expect Daniel to be better, much better than he was last year, Marty.
Kyle Larson had made his way up to the top 15, but kind of stalled out once he got there. So the car is too tight, especially on the exit of 4. You saw the wedge adjustment on the right side. Going to be 4 Goodyear tires very early here. Green flag stop. Some may extend it much later here in stage 1 at Kentucky.
And guys, I'm really surprised. I thought that this tire held on well enough. The lap time didn't slow down enough that I didn't see the advantage to coming early. Obviously, Kyle Larson of the 42 does. He's come to pit road, the 19. And now as we look, there's other cars coming to pit road, so they must feel that there's a reason. The 78 and the leaders on pit road, that tells me that these crew chiefs feel that new tires will still be an advantage even under green flag conditions.
Martin Truex Jr. coming down pit road and led 37 laps when he decided to come down pit road and led all of them. Clint Boyer also on pit road. Truex saying his car chattering the front tires.
That 14 is loose going into the corner, tight through the middle of the corner, loose off to make a significant air pressure adjustment and a chassis adjustment for Boyer. He is out.
Quite a few more cars coming to pit road. Kevin Harvick is in his pit stall. Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski.
Harvick was just a little bit tight through the center, Rick, so they'll make a 4-tire Goodyear change and a Sunoco fill of fuel, air pressure adjustment on that. As for Kyle Busch, he had a long report for his crew. Tight getting into 1 and 2. 3's okay. Touched the line with the left front, and I have the tires go away from me, so a bunch of adjustments that may be small but significant for the 18, Marty.
And Keselowski on pit road, Dave. He said his car just a little bit too tight as well. All these teams taking 4 fresh Goodyear tires, and I think when they saw the early cars take those 4 tires, Steve, everybody else said, hey, that's going to be our move as well.
Yeah, Marty, I think once they saw cars like the 3 who pitted because he had a mechanical issue, well, when he went back on the racetrack, his lap time improved enough that that got all of these other crew chiefs' attention. Like I said, I'm surprised. The word in the garage area that they were thinking the opposite, Rick. They would run a little bit long on these pit stops, not come early, but they're definitely proving us wrong.
How about the 2 car with a great pit stop? The 78 pitted before him, but the 2 is all over him. I'd have thought the 78 would have gotten away from him, but Brad Keselowski and his team did a great job, and also Kyle Busch made up a lot of ground. Now, this isn't for the lead, but if this cycles around, this will be.
Oh, and the 2 gets a speeding penalty coming off of pit road.
And maybe that's why it was such a good stop. But how about the 18?
18 also all over the back bumper of the 78. It was 0.6 of a second that separated Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski before they came to pit road. Then Keselowski coming out and was right door to door with Martin Truex Jr. battling for what will eventually be the lead after all the green flag pit stops cycle through. And then Keselowski gets hit for speeding on pit road, but Kyle Busch lurking now behind the 78.
And I just watched Keselowski come to pit road, and he was way slow getting to pit road, which means he has no confidence that his tachometer is set the way he needs it to be set, so that they could deal with that the rest of the night.
And Jeffy said on the radio, I have no idea. I was not even close to speeding, so I don't know how we got a penalty, but it was too fast exiting, and there's only a couple of stalls that he has to go through to get off of pit road. He's in pit stall number 4.
So remember, guys, that a driver doesn't have a speedometer. He can only use his tachometer and the lights. The lights indicate where the RPMs are. If he's below that, 18 going for the lead.
Here comes Kyle Busch. Again, this is battle for position. But once everyone cycles through their pit stops, it eventually could be for the lead.
Well, Rick, you mentioned that this is back for position back there in the mid-teens because a lot of cars are still on the racetrack. The 41 of Kurt Busch is the actual leader of the race. And I don't think he's coming to pit road anytime soon. I think he's going to run all the way to the end of his fuel window. That's almost 20 more laps. These guys that pitted, they're only a half a second faster versus, say, Chicago a few weeks ago where it would be 2 seconds faster on fresh tires.
Hey, Steve, one of the reasons why Kurt Busch won't come to pit road well, he may soon, but his car's great. It really came around for him near the end of this run, so they're happy with the speed they have right now, even on the older tires.
Now, this is a situation, Steve, where if you're running in first, second, or third, like Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, or Alex Bowman, wouldn't you want to stay out and maybe potentially catch a caution and get a lot of drivers a lap down?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the goal. Parker.
Guys, Jay McMurray was on that long pit strategy right there, but they gave up. They're going to do 4 Goodyear tires and an adjustment on that 1 car. They were trying to make it all the way there, but decided to give up now.
So, Rick, to add a little bit more of what you were saying, we see Jamie McMurray kind of abort, come and take 4 tires. If I'm Kurt Busch and I run all the way to maybe 15 laps before the stage ends, maybe 2 tires, Dale's an option. Shorten up your pit stop to make up for the time you've lost by staying out on the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely have different strategies going on right now. Truex and Kyle Busch are the next cars a lap down. They're trying to chase down and get in front of Kurt. If Kurt's going to stay out there, what if a caution comes out? They want to try to get in front of Kurt. You see Truex trying to do just that. This way, if the caution does come out while Kurt's still leading the race, they don't have to get the wave around, or they don't have to get the lucky dog here, and they can pit with everyone else and come out and restart the race in a good position. So this is a good deal for both these drivers.
How about Harvick? He's run these guys down. Harvick was not in the picture, but he has come from a long way back to run the 18 down.
3 cars have unlapped themselves. Allmendinger is on the lead lap, but about to go a lap down if the 41 is able to get by him.
It's just like we saw last night, Jeff. Lap traffic seems to play a big role on how these guys are, able to close on each other and compete. And the leader's having the toughest time to get through lap traffic. Lap cars are going to probably be more difficult for the leader than they will for the second and third place cars. So that's making it difficult for Truex, and that's why they're able to stay up there with him. And
interesting here, 17 and 18 side by side, but look at that. There was 2 cars width between the 2 cars as the 18 went by. The comment again by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's going to have to be by me at some point in time, potentially when he's lapping me.
Hey, Rick, if it was a wider track, that'd have been 5 car widths.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he used every bit of asphalt available, didn't he?
They stayed a long ways away from each other. Again, Kurt Busch is out front. He's leading. Joey Logano running second. Joey Logano is 5 seconds behind Kurt Busch. The guys who have unlapped themselves, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick, have all been to pit road already, and they have unlapped themselves. They're running 8th, 10th, and 11th, respectively.
You heard Denny Hamlin talking about the brakes and how hard it is to keep brakes on the car here. Well, look at the 42 car as he dumps the wheel off. Look at all that black dust. That is brake dust. Very hard on these cars.
With more than 50,000 service vehicles nationwide, it's no wonder AAA gets to you faster than other roadside service providers. Think of AAA as your pit crew, even when you're not behind the wheel. Visit AAA.com/racefan. We'll win this race together.
And make sure to tune in to Sirius Radio, NASCAR Channel 90 on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern. This week, Marty Snyder is going to join the morning drive, and he will give his insights on what's taking place in the world of NASCAR. And he can give us his insights now. Marty?
Yeah, Rick, we figured out what happened to Brad Keselowski. He came on the radio, said there's 2 lines at the end of pit road, completely my fault. What he means is this is the line that determines who wins the race off pit road right here. That's where NASCAR's camera is. The speed limit line is down there, but when Brad hit this line, he took off at full speed. So Jeff and Junior, you can say it with me, pit road speed is what? Yellow line to yellow line. And that's exactly what Paul Wolfe said on the radio. Yellow line to yellow line, bud. Little mistakes that can cost you big.
That's what they say in the drivers' meeting every week. Yellow line to yellow line, pit road speed. That's what Brad did. He'll make that adjustment. Shouldn't have that problem anymore.
A mental mistake. And we still see Kurt Busch out front, now only about a 4-second lead over Joey Logano. Logano, Alex Bowman, Jimmy Johnson, those 4 have not come to pit road. Running 5th right now is Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch is behind him, Kevin Harvick right behind him. The big 3 running nose to tail right now.
Yeah, behind them, you see that red and white car starting to run the 4 car down. We talked about Ryan Blaney before this race. If you looked at lap times from practice, he was one of the fastest guys on that first run. He kind of fell off toward the end, but now on this run, he started to run these 2 guys down. So now the speed that we saw in practice is starting to show up in the race.
I've been watching the 42, thinking about multiple lines, and a guy that really loves multiple lines, especially at a high line, is Larson, and he's been working the top when he has to. He can run the bottom when he doesn't need to. Move out of the dirty air of another car in front of him, but he's made a lot of passes and a lot of ground by running the high side. Here he goes in the high side of 3 and 4 and making tons of speed up there. He's also using the top of 1 and 2 at times with a little bit of success when he gets close. Like he's got Eric Jones in front of him right now. When he gets a little bit closer to Eric Jones, he'll probably run that high side in 1 and 2, but he's committed to that top of 3 and 4. I say all this is because that's what we want to see to have a great race, multiple grooves. That's why Chicago was so awesome. It's because so many guys could run different lines, and this track's starting to widen out, even though they just repaved it recently over a couple years ago. Already starting to get multiple grooves here, and that's part of the track's effort to age the track, and also the tire dragging usage that we've seen this weekend. They've worked that tire dragging every night. Dave, Kurt Busch.
Yep, he's finally here, Junior, and he's going to come down and take on 4 Goodyear tires and a load of Sunoco fuel. Of course, the tires are durable enough to go the entire distance. We'll see how this strategy works out for them and where they work back into the rest of the field. Remember, the car came around for Kurt at the latter part of the run there. He was doing some adjusting in the cockpit with the track bar adjuster, and now they finish up and he's on his way.
I was talking to Jimmy Johnson about that tire dragging and where the groove is. You'll see it as these guys are going around the racetrack. See that dark area on the racetrack where Chase Elliott's coming. See the tire, see it go above, out of, Chase almost looks like he drives out of the groove. Well, that's where the tire dragging guy went with the tire dragging. It's not really the line the race cars are running. And Jimmy says that plays tricks on him a little bit. And but it also really helps these guys trust that middle and outside groove and to be able to run a different groove than just the bottom. So it works. Here comes Joe Logano to pit road.
And you see him coming down pit road. I talked to Todd Gordon, his crew chief, this morning about maybe making this strategy play. He said if we need to flip track position, this is what we'll do. Run as long as we can in stage 1. And the play here is when they throw the caution for stage 1, they're not going to come back to pit road. So that's the theory here with the 22 team. Pit now, stay out later to try and get your track position back. Joey says the car a little bit too tight for him. He's gone up on the track bar inside the car. Going to be 4 fresh Goodyear tires. They're going to pack it with Sunoco fuel here. So strategy play, and it worked for this team last year. They were running about 15th or so. Kind of played this strategy last year, wound up with a top 10 finish. We'll see if it works out today here early in the race, Dave.
Alex Bowman now pulls the Chevrolet into pit road. His car was very tight early on. He's going to get a chassis adjustment there. Wrench goes in and out, tossed back to the wall. 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for Bowman.
Bowman finishing his stop. And surprisingly enough, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson is the one that is out in front. Only 12 laps led this year.
And you saw the 22 actually for just a moment there was a lap down, but those fresher tires enabled him to drive back by the 78, who will ultimately be the leader. The 48's the leader now, but ultimately that 78's going to be the leader. The 22 of those new tires are going to be able to drive away from him.
Jimmy Johnson about 6 seconds in front of Martin Truex Jr., but Jimmy Johnson still has to go to pit road. Let's go NASCAR nonstop. You can watch the world's best golfers battle for the Claret Jug and the right to be called Champion Golfer of the Year. The coverage of the Open that begins Thursday on the Golf Channel and continues Saturday morning on NBC.
Well, we saw the 48 of Jimmy Johnson pit and only do 2 tires. That was to try to keep himself as close to the leader as he could, because ultimately he's got to unlap himself. So directly in front of him is Martin Truex as he's trying to get him to unlap himself.
Got to get that 78. Got to get that 78, Jimmy. Got to get that 78, bud. Look, it's back on the lead lap.
So you would think that with new tires it would be easy, but it really hasn't been that easy. He got by Harvick, he got by Kyle Busch. He's quicker than Truex for sure, but not at the rate that I thought he would be. I thought that these 2 tires would be way quicker. He should get to him 8 laps ago in this stage.
Well, it's just not the 48. Behind the 48, his teammate, the 88 of Alex Bowman. He is also trying to basically work the same idea, right? He has to unlap himself before the end of the stage, and his lap times actually look a little bit better than the leaders.
Battle for the second position. As you see the 4 of Kevin Harvick moving to the inside. And Harvick making the pass on Kyle Busch using that low line. Harvick moves up to second, Kyle Busch back to third. And once again, we have talked about the way this season has gone and the domination of the big 3. The big 3, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch running 1, 2, 3 here at Kentucky.
So now the 88 took 4 tires, the 48 took 2 tires, both in the same situation, needing to pass the leader of the 78. And then 88, Dale, was inside the 48, and now Jimmy Johnson, these two are trying to battle each other and find a way past the leader.
It's going to be a great run for the 88 off the turn 2. Jimmy caught on the inside of the lap car, Ty Dillon. It's for the lucky dog. And this is critical to the strategy of the rest of the race for these guys. One of these guys gets trapped a lap down. Look at this. Look at Bowman going through the middle there, 3 wide. Bowman's been running the middle of both ends and has a lot of speed doing that.
Guys, the 48's pulling away from these two since they were dealing with each other and that lap car. Kelly.
Yeah, and Chad Knaus told Jimmy at first, as you heard, go after that 78 to get back on the lead lap, but then just moments ago he said, hey, let him have it, let him get the 78, we'll get the lucky dog. So that sounds like why the 48's backed off now.
Well, that's a good strategy. If you're fighting a guy and the 78's going to get away, and ultimately the 88's faster than you, then maybe let him go. Let him go get the 78, unlap himself, but that puts you the first car a lap down. The danger in that is, can the 78 catch somebody else and put someone else a lap down where you're no longer in position to get the free pass?
Yeah, you have to look at every angle of it, Jeff, and it was a big day for the 48. Announced today, Chad Knaus signed a 2-year extension, continues to work with Jimmy Johnson. Hands down, the most successful duo in the garage, 7 championships, a ton of wins, and now they really need this 88 to pass that 78, Dale.
But it's got to be heartbreaking, though, right, Dale? I mean, you put tires on. You have 2 tires, and Martin Truex Jr. with old tires is driving away from you. That's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, the advantage of those 2 tires just didn't seem to last very long. I think a lot of guys in the pits will be looking at that and thinking, man, maybe 2 tires isn't a good option tonight. This place is a repave. I mean, we still call it a repave, but there is quite a bit of fall off, almost 2 seconds of fall off in the last race run. So new tires, 4 tires particularly, very important.
Here's Bowman trying to unlap himself, and Bowman's going to be able to do it. We mentioned the big 3. You take a look at the last 12 mile-and-a-half tracks, and Steve, you said you're not good with math, but you can figure this one out.
I can. 5-4-3, I know where that is. That's basically the last 12. Every mile-and-a-half track, the last 12, they have won. Reminder, the 4 and the 18 have won every mile-and-a-half track this year. So why are they the big 3? I mean, that's why. These guys continue to dominate every stat line that we look at.
Steve, I have to ask you, though, you just mentioned Chad Knaus and renewing his contract. When they started pit cycles and the 78 came to pit road, the 48 was running 18th. Even if Jimmy Johnson is able to get by Martin Truex Jr. and get back on the lead lap, he's still only going to be running 20th, 21st. Yeah. So is that an advantage? I mean, did they do the right call there with what they tried to do, staying out on the track as long as they did?
Well, I think it was going to work well if they got a caution, which they didn't get, and it looks like they're going to get the free pass right here as the 78 wins the first stage.
Stage 1 in the books. Martin Truex Jr. gets the win. Kevin Harvick coming home in second. Kyle Busch, the third of the big 3, finishes third.
So Rick, go back to that 48 as we saw the 78 win. You know, what I do like about it is they're starting to call races aggressive, right? He took a chance, a yellow, and now the 48 has track position. That's something we haven't seen out of the 48. I like the aggression.
He was running 18th before the cycle started, so didn't lose much.
Martin Truex Jr. dominated a year ago, and he's doing it all over again this year.
Running down a dream that never would come to me. Working on a mystery, going wherever it leads. Running down a dream.
You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. This telecast presented by Toyota. Next week, oh my goodness. Yep, that's right. They're all in charge. Steve, Jeff, and Junior. And they will be bringing the broadcast to you next week.
Just to be clear, I made sure all the bosses signed off, and this is a good idea because this easily could go awry quickly.
Yeah, this is a terrible idea. I don't know how we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna do very well with our leader out there, but
I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be very entertaining.
Rick, I want to know how's it going to be on pit road with no air conditioning, man.
Well, I've asked some people if they could bring what are those called, the palm leaves, and fan me while I was down there.
Don't tell our secrets.
Oh, okay. That was one of the ideas I was coming up with.
I don't know who came up with this idea, but whoever it was.
Well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and what I applaud is we continue to look at races in a different fashion, and I think fans enjoy that. They enjoy just kind of hanging out with us because we love racing and we love to present it in many different ways. We'll see how this goes at the end of stage one. Teams up on the wall getting ready for their cars to make it in front of them into their pit stalls. Martin Truex Jr., only driver to ever win a stage at Kentucky. He won all of them last year and this one. Dave.
Steve, let's watch the race on pit road between second place Kevin Harvick and third place Kyle Busch. Remember, it's about the pit crews here because the drivers are obeying a pit road speed limit. So it's about hand speed, accuracy, changing 4 tires, filling full of fuel. Right now, Busch's car is in a little worse shape handling-wise than Harvick's. Marty?
How about the view from on top of the Peacock pit box as we watch Martin Truex Jr. stop right here with stage win number 4 of the season. He is right underneath the pit box. He said he needs center turn in 1 and 2, exit turn in 3 and 4. Going to be 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Cole Pern making the call to get 4 of those Goodyear tires in Sunoco fuel. The 41 wins the race off pit road. Truex is going to wind up being second, Rick.
We will take a look at that race off pit road, brought to you by Kroger Click List. 13 spots made up. 2 tire change for Bowman and Kurt Busch, making up a lot of ground. Joey Logano is out front now of the Quaker State 400 from Kentucky Speedway. Want to go to our Toyota Camry on-track car. It's in victory lane now.
We heard Denny Hamlin talking about brake issues and how his crew chief said the wheel was really hot. Well, this is a weird racetrack. It's a 1.5 miles, but it's a flat 1.5 miles, so you use a lot of brakes. Aerodynamically, you don't want to do anything to the nose. You don't want to put brake ducts. Normally at a place like use a lot of brakes right here, you would see a brake duct. But here you don't put them in because aerodynamically it kills front downforce. You take a chance, but you want to go as fast as you can. Parker.
And Jeff, I came out here to turn 3 to talk about how treacherous this corner is and how flat it is, which we all talked about all weekend. But the thing that caught my eye since I've been out here is some of the brake rotors glowing. I've noticed cars like the 20, the 11, their rotors are glowing and they're running the bottom. But cars that are running the top, they're letting that car roll more, like the 42. They don't have their brakes glowing. So I think the driver as well can manage that brake pressure and that brake heat by going into this corner a little bit differently and using less brake.
Yeah, that's difficult because now you're taking a tool away from your driver. But a few different players on the front row. We saw the 41, 22, the 88. They run very long, pit late in that first stage. Well, as Marty reported, the 22 didn't come back in. He stayed out, didn't come back in for any tires. The 41 next to him came back in for just right sides, as did the 88 Alex Bowman. That's how they gained all this track position.
Yeah, I like the call for Alex because he had really good speed right up to the end of that stage and gained a ton of track position here. He was basically going to start at the back of the lead lap cars if he took 4 tires. So this is a good gamble, I believe.
Old tires on a restart in the front. We saw it last night. Didn't work out very well. Buescher got wrecked on old tires.
Field approaching the Geico restart zone. It was a 2-tire stop for Kurt Busch. Logano didn't come to pit road. Martin Truex Jr. 4-tire stop for him. Kurt Busch trying to check out, run away, but Martin Truex Jr. is going to try to reel him back in. And the 42 of Kyle Larson all the way on the high line, passing cars too deep.
If you're in that outside line and that far back in a track that does provide a second and third groove, Larson, Kyle Busch, those are the guys that are going to jump up there and make it 3 wide. That first lap, you can gain a ton of positions with guys all trying to shuffle to the bottom.
That right there is a great view of how well the 42 is working off the top lane. You saw how he turned lower than the 88. You heard him get into the throttle. That was a great onboard shot. Now this is the other end of the racetrack with a little more banking in turns 1 and 2.
Larson talked about how his cars have gotten better this year. He doesn't have to run the top. People say, hey, you don't run the top as much as you do or you did last year. He says, I don't have to. My cars are turning better this year and I run the bottom when it turns. But he still runs that top when he wants to.
If I was a true chief, I would have cut that quote out and
like
put
that.
it on the board. So, hey, it's working, guys. It's working.
Larson up to 7th. Boyer now up to 8th. Alex Bowman's dropped back to 9th.
And we see Bowman struggling. How about Kurt Busch? Kurt Busch on those 2 tires, he's driving away. See the 4 car making a run on Kyle Busch in the 18.
Fight for the 4th spot, and Kevin Harvick's going to take it away. Kurt Busch still able to hold off Martin Truex Jr. And then it's Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Ryan Blaney has now been able to get by Kyle Busch.
Blaney's had great speed this weekend. I think we could see win this race if he can make all the right moves tonight. Definitely has the speed to get by Kyle Busch, which we think is a great car. And you got Larson going to the outside again. Really making it work down in 3 and 4.
Oh, it takes bravery to go out there and be the first one out there, Junior.
I didn't think it was going to work today in 3 and 4. I really didn't. We didn't have an outside line in the Xfinity Series last night. But Larson will find it. If it's there, he will keep working and keep working. We've seen him at practice at Bristol go up to the top and run the top of the racetrack a half a second slower just to work it in and get it to where that outside groove's an option. So dedicated to creating options and different grooves for himself to be able to use those in the race.
Well, you're shocked that he has an outside in 3 and 4 because it is arguably one of the toughest corners in NASCAR. That entrance to turn 3, Parker, is flat. There's no reference marks. I think from what I hear from all the drivers, that right there is the toughest one to drive.
It definitely is, Steve, and because it's so flat, the car doesn't want to actually turn in the corner. And I'm still out here when we had that restart, and I'll tell you, it's also pretty terrifying being up here when they come down in your 2 and 3 wide as they go off on the restart. Once they get single file, it's a little bit more relaxed, but it's definitely a terrifying sight up here as they come in knowing that they're at such little grip turning into this corner.
Parker, I saw you flinch. So you were in the truck race, and you know how slick that gray area is? So he didn't really want to turn his back to the race cars. I saw that, Parker. You were a little nervous.
Yeah, no, I got a little nervous, especially when they had the restart. I had everyone over here back away from the fence a little bit because I just know what they're actually going through and how out of control they are.
What a great shot right there. Just shows how much speed they're trying to carry through a corner that looks more like a parking lot than the racetrack.
Back up front, Kurt Busch. Got a little pressure from Martin Truex Jr. He's chased him down. Lose 4 tires. Be interesting to see if Truex tries a different groove to try to get around Kurt. Kurt's got great speed. Truex only about a 10th quicker that last lap.
I think the other thing that we're watching here is a trend develop. So if Kurt Busch can stay out there on 2 tires and hold Truex off, how does that change your strategy for this stage, setting yourself up for the last one?
Well, as you see on the right side of the screen versus the 22 with no tires, he did okay early, Jeff, but as he started to lose positions, it becomes even more difficult, right? Because now he has old tires and he has bad air around his race car. He's going to fall to the clutches of Kyle Busch here pretty easy versus the 41. The 78 will probably get by him, but they've gapped themselves to the next position, so hopefully he will keep that track position.
Yeah, one thing about the 22, though, Steve, is that he really wasn't running that great. You know, early in the race, he wasn't running in the front. So, you know, maybe this was the right call for this team because he really didn't have early speed.
Yeah, leave it to Todd Gordon. He is not afraid to try a different strategy. I applaud him for that. Marty?
And Steve, that's exactly the point Todd Gordon made to me. He said, hey, when we made that move, we were running 16th. So if I can stay here and hang in, he's losing a lot of spots. Going to go down to 8th right here. He said, hopefully I can get stage points, pit with everybody else when they split the stage, which is only going to be about 25 or 30 more laps. So maybe it'll work out. But remember, that's the key thing, Steve, running 16th when they made that move.
And Marty, the 78 just got by the 41. So Martin Truex Jr. back out in front in Kentucky. Kurt Busch will now try to hang on, see if he can keep the track position with the strategy play that they went with. Monster Energy Cup Series racing continues from Kentucky Speedway. Legendary's Skyscraper now play. Martin Truex Jr. out front, almost 2.5 second lead over Kurt Busch. Kelly.
Rick, there could be a problem for Erik Jones. Remember, he started on the front row, but has had a difficult race car since, and now big issues potentially. Listen. You heard him say he thought he was blowing up at first, heard something snap, has this vibration. He says he definitely thinks it is not tires. Right now he's saying maybe a drive shaft.
Yeah, that's puzzling as a driver to hear something snap like that and still be making power. His speed's not that far off, so in your mind is rolling around, okay, what is wrong with this car? Maybe he ran over something, who knows? But you see his speed's okay as he gets by Alex Bowman.
And Rick, the only good news in that whole report for the 20 is they were a winner last week. So they're heading on to the playoffs, and I think that is a little consolation. But Dale, talk about that. The season is so long. You go from the highs of winning to the low of potential mechanical problems.
Yeah, it's difficult because you'd hope that the win would carry momentum into the next race, and he was really good off the truck, had good speed in practice. Commented in the garage by several that had a good car and maybe a contender tonight. Still has that opportunity. You just got to settle in and try to grind away right now and try to make that opportunity later in the race. Still got time to work on the balance of his car, and I mean he's only running in 14th right now, so he still can make some good track position. He just has to hang in there, and I think his crew chief and everybody in spotter can calm him down a little bit about that issue. Hopefully, we've had vibrations go away tonight. Miraculously,
yeah, right.
That one could go away, and it could be a tire or something like that just giving a little problems on this particular run.
Yeah, how about this battle heating up with Kyle Larson? You keep talking about it, Junior. He keeps stretching that outside lane as he's trying to catch the 12 car Blaney with lap traffic in front. You see Harvick and Busch right in front of these guys, so good tight battle for 2nd through 5th right here.
Larson started in the backs, drove all the way up to the real contenders. I mean, we're going to see if he's
88's in the fence, guys.
Caution comes out.
The right sides are both down, coming to you now.
Alex Bowman in the 88s. Right front, tons of damage.
Well, Dale, you mentioned earlier about the trouble that 17 had. He was the first car out of the playoff picture. Well, the first car in the playoff picture is the 88 Alex Bowman, so they can't really afford this. Came into the race only 19 points above. As you can see, heavy damage along the right side, much more than just sheet metal. You see right there the front tire change, giving the signal, listen, we have stuff broken underneath in the suspension. They'll try to take a look and see what they have, but heavy contact for the 88.
Let's take a look at what happened here with the replay. Down the back straightaway, following Denny Hamlin off in the turn 3, below the right front tire, has the right front tire go down.
And remember, this is one of those cars that took only 2 tires at the pit stop.
He did. Yeah, he did. He did have only 2 tires on that last pit stop and probably was fighting a real tight situation, using a ton of brake, or more brake than usual, and blew the bead out on the right front tire with the heat through the wheel coming from the brake caliper.
Well, you mentioned, Jeff, the challenge of this racetrack for the mechanics, do you put air to the brakes and things like that? The same challenge exists for Goodyear because they run different beads in the short track tires that are meant for all this heat. Well, this is an intermediate style racetrack, right? So what components go into that tire? So I have to get a report, but without a doubt, the tire was flat before he hit the wall.
You can see that it popped as soon as he probably would have applied the brake pressure and increased the heat right there at that last minute. I mean, it was stressing that tire to the very, very edge, and when you're tight like that, you're in the brakes a lot more. Dave.
Junior, on that last run, Kevin Harvick had an adjustment made for his race car that didn't really help him much. That's what he told the crew. So he asked him to put the adjustment back. That's what the 4 team will do for Kevin. We'll see if they go 2 or 4. Kurt Busch, he's going to want 4 tires. That car was a little bit looser on that run. Harvick just 2 tires.
Martin Truex Jr., bottom of your screen, comes in as the leader. He said it took off a little bit snug, meaning a little bit tight, but it came to me nicely, so it's going to be no changes, maybe a little air pressure adjustment Cole Pearn was considering. They have enough Geico fuel here to make it to the end. Just 2 Goodyear tires for Truex, who will easily win the race off of pit road.
Martin Truex Jr. holds serve. Kyle Busch with a good 2-tire stop gains 4 positions, moves up to second.
Introducing Sonic's Crispy Tenders. They're flavorful and crispy. Yeah, that's right, they're Flispy. Try them with the new signature sauce. This is how you Sonic.
Differing strategies on pit road. Steve, 2 versus 4, which is the winning combination right now?
Well, Rick, you mentioned it. It's decision times for the crew chief, so you see it. You know, short time on pit road, you gain track position 1st through 9th, all on 2 tires. Little footnote for Joey Logano, those left sides are all the way back from lap 62. They're extra old. You see the 41 has 4 tires, and then all of these guys just outside the top 10. Larson, we've been riding on board showing how he's running the top. They have 4 tires. It's going to be interesting, Dave, to see if these 4 tires can find a little more grip and capitalize over those 2-tire stops.
Don't know if it's going to work for Kyle Busch or not. They had some big adjustments on the first run. No adjustments here, so we'll see what happens with Kyle, Parker.
Yeah, Paul Menard running 5th there. I think he's in a good position right now for this restart. He also has had a lot of brake fade at times in the long runs, but it's better in cleaner air, so he's going to try like heck to get clean air, Kelly.
Chase Elliott will restart 12th. It's been a frustrating season for this team. They know they need to make up ground on these restarts. We'll see if Chase can do it with the help of some adjustments on pit road, Marty.
Kelly, Steve mentioned it's going to be fun to watch those 4 tires in the back, including Kyle Larson, who's put on a show today. And Junior, he said something very interesting. He can run that quasi-high line. He said, my car is very stable on entry. How key is that if you want to do what Larson is doing?
Yeah, running that high line, the entry is important. Widen out that entry. It's going to help that center and getting that gas and make that momentum off the corner.
Martin Truex Jr. has chosen the outside line. Kyle Busch will restart on the inside as they approach the Geico Restart zone.
Here comes Blaney, man. He's got some speed this weekend. 3 wide.
3 wide for the lead going down the backstretch. Kyle Busch checks up, goes back behind the 78, now trying to take that momentum and go to the high line through 3 and 4.
Blaney's had great takeoff speed. His long run speed's not been very good, but you can see right now as he drives underneath Busch to take 2nd place.
A lot of side drafting going on. Side drafting still critical at a 1.5 miles like this.
Side by side for 2nd. Kyle Busch trying to get that momentum up on the outside. Ryan Blaney fighting hard on the inside.
Now that everybody's figured out that outside, they know they can get in the turn 3 deep. Kyle Busch drives it in there, clears that position, but Blaney fighting back down the front straightaway.
See if Kyle Busch lays his door. He kind of gives a spot. Now he drives into 1.
Man,
can he beat him off? Can he get off at 2? Close.
Great race for second. Blaney still working that inside line. Shorter distance around the track, trying to take advantage of it.
I think he's got him this time. And Kyle knows how important these positions are. We talk about it every week. These guys know how competitive it is up front. You cannot allow guys to get that track position, even that 1 position.
Junior, so you talked about the side drafting as we see the 22 and the 4 side by side. This phenomenon, we always saw it at the speedways. When did it become so popular at these mile-and-a-half tracks? I mean, it's new. The last couple years it seems like.
It's only, I think it's so popular because these guys are fighting so hard to keep the positions, and they'll do anything they can for that advantage. So if a side draft's going to get you a couple feet down the straightaway, you're going to do it.
Where before you just kind of got on the straightaway and hoped you had a good enough run. Now you could still affect the advantage of or disadvantage of your opponent.
Yeah, I think guys are contending these spots more often too. I mean, it was years ago before the stages, before the points.
A lot of waving out the window.
A lot of guys letting guys go with this. We got a car in the fence in the middle of 1 and 2.
We do. I can't tell. It's a white car, Rick. It's hard to see from here, but
yep, way up against the wall.
Looks like he'll get to pit road.
Coming down the backstretch now, and as you mentioned, looks like he's going to be able to make it to pit road, so they'll stay green.
Nope.
It's the 32. That's Matt DiBenedetto.
That's too bad. I went and saw this team in the garage area. You know, they're just having fun. Great run last week up front, a little bit higher than they expect to run. And they just say they're doing the best they can. This car right here, he said, is 6 years old. Just come here, try to compete. You see he gets up out of the groove. Doesn't look like a lot of right side damage. Hopefully they can just change some tires. As we see Kyle Larson trying to make those 4 tires work, getting by the 21 of Menard, who's having a great run.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Menard much tonight, but he's been running in the top 10 all night long. He had great speed as well. He was in the top 10 in averages in practice, doing really well and hanging in there tonight.
This battle for second place has heated up. Blaney has gotten the inside working off of 2 and was able to get underneath Kyle Busch, but Kyle battles back on that outside. That outside developing is going to make passing that much more difficult. On this old racetrack, that spot would have been Blaney's. There was no top groove. He drove underneath him. Kyle would have had to give the spot, but now the second groove's developed, and Kyle Busch was able to fight back.
And Junior, I think Ryan Blaney saw Eric Jones with that mullet win last week and decided, hey, I've got better hair. I should probably be able to run up front too.
Look at Blaney now. He's going to try to move his line, get up the racetrack a little bit. He's going to have to enter higher, though. He can't drive it up there, enter low, and drive to the middle. He's going to have to enter the corner higher and use a constant radius around the corner.
Read my mind, Jeff. Marty.
How about this for Ryan Blaney? So good right now early in the run. He told Jeremy Bullins a moment ago, love the changes you made on the last stop, bud. Obviously, takeoff speed. They have a ton of that, Dave. Can they hang on? That's the big key, but certainly a sense of urgency for that 12 car right now.
Marty, word of warning to Kyle Busch from his spotter. Hey, watch how you play the air on him, the 12. Remember him and Larson at Chicago. Guys, I believe there may have been contact, so they're trying to tell Kyle, heads up, just in case.
You know, one thing as we get these reports about cars changing, sun is set, guys. Lights has come on. And, you know, I know this is a night race, but later in the summer, the sun sets so late. This really started almost as a day race.
Yeah, it did. And then that report from Dave was really enlightening because we were talking just about side draft and what that does to the car. So, you know, if you want to go down on the side of the 12 if he's underneath you, to take the air and pull it off his spoiler, which makes him way loose in the middle of the corner when you do that. But he might lose this race car and drive into the side of you as he's trying to save it. So there's danger in pulling that move in the corners.
Still Truex out front, has about a 1.5 second lead over Kyle Busch. Then it's Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick. Joey Logano also in the top 5.
Kevin Harvick trying to high line in 3 and 4.
It's fun watching them try to experiment. And what's tough about a racetrack like this, Junior, where we really didn't necessarily expect a high groove, is to know when to try it. Because if it doesn't work, the consequences are large. You could hit the wall, you could end your day. So it's nerve-wracking to jump up there for the first time.
Yeah, well, that much space behind Harvick, he can take that gamble, take that risk. But you're right, if you got a few guys close within proximity of taking a position from you, you could lose that position easily by making the wrong choice and going up there too early.
Martin Truex Jr. after winning stage 1, he's 34 laps away from stage 2. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. This telecast presented by Toyota. Time now for tonight's Subway Fresh Take. Let's take a closer look at the guys running up front. We'll start with Martin Truex Jr. and Marty.
So going into the day, Rick, Martin Truex Jr. told me I need to do a couple of things other than obviously win. I need to lead laps, check. He's done that, led 89 to this point. And I need a stage win and some playoff points, check. He's done that, winning stage 1. Very quiet on the radio, obviously very happy with the 78, Dave.
And keep in mind, Marty, just how much they've worked on that 18 car since the beginning of this race. Remember, the sun went down, track is changing, and Kyle needed a lot of changes on that first stop. He got them.
Ryan Blaney running third right now. You know, earlier this week he said, I'm not, quote, a big points looker guy. If he would look at the points, he's plus 89 above the cut line to make the playoffs. But they've had 3 bad races. He said, we need to clean it up. Pretty clean so far, Dave.
You keep all the tools in your pocket that you can. Earlier today, Rodney Childers told me that he wasn't too sure he wanted to do 2 tires only on Kevin Harvick, but they did it there the last time. The other thing that was new for Kevin on this run was trying that high line. That's kind of unusual for this driver, Marty.
Joey Logano in 5th, Dave. You know, he didn't feel well last week at Daytona. In fact, he went to the infield care center 3 different times to visit doctors. He's feeling a little bit better this week, but battling right now in a 3-wide battle, trying to hang on to the top 5. Also Kyle Larson up there in the mix as well. You know, he says here at Kentucky, to him, even though everybody else makes a big deal of turn 3, he does not. Why? He said, we're all terrible through there. It's the exit of turn 4 and turn 2 that I worry about, Dave.
Mike Ravage told me this morning that Clint Boyer would be good. Remember, we've seen him run up front all day long. It's a pretty good day so far for the 14. And the 41 of Kurt Busch, better with 4 tires, that's for sure. To get to the end of this stage, we'll see how much the 41's balance changes. Right now, it's not bad for the 41, Parker.
Dave, if you think back Chicago, Paul Menard won the pole, but very quickly fell back outside the top 10. Coming into this race, they qualified well, 6th place. The goal to run inside the top 10, to stay up there the entire time, and they have done that throughout the night. Behind him in 10th, Eric Almirola actually came on the radio a little bit ago talking about how he had brake fade. But then when they came into the pits, he said, I don't want to change the opening because I know that ruins the aero, but I'll manage the brakes. I'll do things different inside the car to help those brakes last longer, Kelly.
22-year-old Eric Jones secured his spot in the playoffs with the win last week. His crew chief said that took some pressure away. They don't have to fight for every last point anymore. And he said he thinks it's helped Eric's confidence, although he's always been quietly confident. This team has some extra pep in their step starting this weekend. Can't say the same for the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, who's running behind him. Chad Knaus said, look, we've had some good years and some bad years here at Kentucky. Unfortunately, this is not going to be one of the good ones. He is not at all comfortable with their playoff position. They're just 54 points above the cut line. They would love to get a win, extend their winning streak, and get themselves back in the playoffs. Behind him, his teammate, Chase Elliott. He's in a similar situation, just 37 points above the cut line. His crew chief, Alan Gustafson, told me it has been a frustrating first half of this season. They definitely thought they would show more marked improvement at this point. They kind of feel like every time they take 2 steps forward, they get knocked back 3 more, Marty.
Kelly, let's give an attaboy to Brad Keselowski. Yes, after that speeding penalty, fell back to 32nd. He has clawed his way back up to 14th right here. And over the last few laps, he's been top 5 in lap time. So that's tough, Jeff, isn't it, when you're trying to get your way back up from 32nd up to the top 10?
Yeah, it's so hard, Marty, because, once you get up to this group, it's so much harder to pass. We saw, the charge by Kyle Larson to the front, but he went through a lot of cars that weren't as good as the cars that Brad's had to go through. So, yeah, it's only going to get tougher.
Well, you heard Marty say how the 2 of Brad Keselowski was running top 5 lap times. Well, the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. out there leading with those 2 tires, making them look great. But behind them, other cars, those 4 tires are really starting to pay off. We see Larson, Kurt Busch. Those guys are actually starting to find some grip. So let's take a look at their speeds at the line. Truex, not even the fastest car this time by Kyle Busch, right behind him in 2nd. But I think, look at this. Boyer, all the way back in 6th, the fastest car in the top 10. It's all about working up and down the corners. You see them moving around the racetrack, those different grooves, Dale.
Yeah, they're also all catching traffic at different times around the racetrack, affecting their lap time each lap. But definitely seeing some speed from Larson and Boyer. 2 guys that we talked about earlier in the show that I think we got, have a chance to win this race.
If they want to win this race, they're going to have to pick it up just a bit, because Martin Truex Jr. is trying to duplicate what he did a year ago, winning all the stages and the race. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. And right there, the monster car driven by Kurt Busch, running in the 7th spot. And Steve, I've got him in the garage still on my fantasy lineup. Do you have him in your lineup?
I do not have the 41 in my lineup, but now's the time, Rick, with only 14 laps to go in the 2nd stage. If you're going to make a lineup change, you got to go log in, go to your garage, decide if you're going to make the change. Dale Jr., I was just looking over your shoulder. I just saw you make a change. Who'd you put in?
Yeah, I had to take Keselowski out of my 5 and put Blaney in there. I had Blaney in the garage.
Oh, well, there he is right there, that red and white number 12, having a great day, running 3rd. So, Rick, I got to go. There's 14 to go. I might have to make a change.
Okay. I had Boyer in my garage, and I had Keselowski in my starters. So I took a gamble here because Keselowski hadn't driven to the front. I put Boyer in while we were on break. We'll see if that works out for me. It normally doesn't.
Yeah, I'm struggling in this round of fantasy.
No.
Yeah.
No, I thought you was going to be another walk away.
Well, a little bit different.
Rick, the way you position that is you say, I won the first round.
I can't
say
tout that.
Yeah, you just say.
You're only as good as your last race.
You tout your successes.
How about this 12 right here, Ryan Blaney running in the 3rd position? You mentioned it earlier. Just had a really solid weekend. A lot of speed out of that race car. Sometimes a calm weekend is great. We'll see if he can capitalize as we get into the later stages of this race, but doing everything right behind the wheel so far.
Yeah, definitely having a good run tonight. This is what we've anticipated from him all season. Really haven't seen it with the domination of SHR. Nobody's really had a chance to get up there and run well, and tonight starting to show through. This has been a track that Brad Keselowski had a lot of success here with, and you got to think that some of that has blended over or lent itself to his team. And
well, I mean, we haven't talked about him because we haven't talked about anybody. Truex, Kyle Busch, Blaney, Harvick. Those 3 names, Truex, Busch, and Harvick, they're always in the top 5, it seems like. So a different player comes. Maybe it's Larson, maybe it's Blaney. But Jeff, regardless of who the new contender is, the big 3 gets that label because they perform week in and week out.
You know what's surprising about Blaney is that Busch and Harvick coming into tonight's race are the only 2 that have more laps than him. So he's had a really good year. He hadn't gotten those wins that we thought he would get, but he's been solid all year long. He just needs to get some more wins or wins, period.
I say more. He just wants to get that second, that career second.
Let's go inside Denny Hamlin's car for the helmet cam here. Take a couple laps down the back straightaway. See how bumpy it is. Look, wow. More bumps than you'd expect at a track that's just recently repaved. Love that line he's running that high side. He entered good and high, so keeps that car turning in the center. Great momentum down the straightaway. He pitted on lap 32, had brake issues. Took 2 the last stop to get the advantage and
making the most of it for sure. You know, I thought he had real trouble early in the race, but he's really recovered nicely.
Absolutely. On the bottom that time, so just kind of interesting to watch these guys decide, oh, he's going to run the bottom this time, and he's feeling something in the car that makes you choose that. You must like the car at the bottom and the top, but maybe when he comes up on a slower car that's going to run that bottom line, feels comfortable with his car to run the high side.
Someone has to explain to me why he has the time of day on his dash. I mean, there's a lot of information I could give you, but the time of day? Like, I mean, I just, look, I mean, you see the RPM, you see the lights, a lot of other vital information. My man right here, it's 9, just for everybody at home, 9:17.
He's got the seconds, too.
The seconds. Which is precise.
Kelly.
Well, it has been a nice recovery for Denny Hamlin, especially considering one of those pit stops was a lengthy one. We've been talking about those brake issues and the heat. Well, the team came up with a solution. They actually drilled holes in the front grille to help get air to those brakes. They drilled 2 holes in the right front, 1 hole in the left. So it was a lengthy spot that cost him a lot of track position, but Denny seems much happier with the 11 car now.
I like that. Hey, whatever it takes, Burton. Drill some holes. Just get some air to the brakes.
What if there's any other weird stuff people have on their dashes?
Now I'm curious.
I am too.
I don't know. It reminded me I'm hungry. That time of night. Yeah, I love the, that's what these teams are so good at. They're resourceful. You have an issue, and you just got to deal with it. Tonight's the race, man. You don't get to deal with this tomorrow. You have to deal with it right now. Yeah. So go ahead and make something happen.
I want everybody to look here on this. We talked earlier in the race about a tire dragon where they put a lot of rubber down on this racetrack. And you can see, especially down the front straightaway, they're in the rubber where the Tire Dragon was. Watch the Tire Dragon rubber go low. They're back in it now, and now the Tire Dragon rubber is going to go high. It's like the Tire Dragon guy, they have ran a race here. And like that guy didn't watch any of that tape, but, you know, it's fun to pick on. But this is really helpful to these drivers when it gives them opportunity to know where the groove is and understand and trust that groove to be wider. They worked on this track every night this weekend. The first night before the Xfinity race, they went 8 feet higher. Last night, they went another 8 feet on top of that. You got to applaud the racetrack for trying to do everything they can and put that effort in to deliver a great racetrack.
We go back up front. Martin Truex Jr. almost a 2-second lead over Kyle Busch.
Well, he has a 2-second lead, but that doesn't mean things are easy. Trying to lap Bubba Wallace, gets underneath him, and, you know, Bubba's not going to just lay over and give it to him, and Bubba just put up a big fight. I don't think he was very happy about it, though, Martin Truex.
Yeah, I'm standing here with his starter trying to get him to give us some help here, man.
You always want help from people that, you know, you're passing, and that actually put Bubba Wallace 2 laps down. But the fact of the matter is, we've talked about this
Jeff,
every week,
that's
man.
the fight, though, Jeff,
That's
right? Bubba Wallace cannot go 2 down. I mean, to credit him, once you get to 2 down, it's a black hole.
Yeah, you think as a competitor, hey, I'm in the lead lap, cut me some slack, but getting 1 lap back's okay because the free pass, a wave around, all those things, but 2 laps, it's very difficult to get. So I don't blame Bubba Wallace for putting up a fight.
And just in front right now of the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. is Chris Buescher, and he is the only car right now that is a lap down. But if the 78 gets by him, he will also be 2 laps down, would be eligible to get a free pass, but still, that doesn't get him on the lead lap.
But this lap for him could be his race, right? So it's 1 lap left, and to him, that's like the race end. Like he's almost has the intensity of having to win this race on this lap. That's his race. It's a different race than Martin Truex, but that's what Buescher's dealing with.
He's got to stay in front of him through this last turn. Through 3 and 4 to stay just a lap down. He'll get his lap back if he does, because Martin Truex Jr. has swept the first 2 stages. He wins again. 6 times a driver has swept both stages and went on to win the race. 3 times Martin Truex Jr. has done it. He's done the first 2 steps. Stage 1 and Stage 2 winner.
And Paul Menard there in 10th. Paul's having a solid night tonight.
Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Blaney, Harvick, and Larson. Amazing. Martin Truex Jr., the one of the big 3 that has been dominant in Kentucky. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Credit One Bank. Credit card perfect for everyday purchases. Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of NASCAR. Progressive. Stay on track with great rates at progressive.com. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Dave.
Rick, second place driver Kyle Busch wants a Gatorade and 2 Ziploc bags full of ice to put in his driver's suit. 4 Goodyear tires on his race car, plus a fill of Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Right side of your screen, you see Ryan Blaney coming in. He said it started free, but you know, I really feel like we're going in the right direction, so I don't want any drastic changes to the car. So Jeremy Boland's going to make a very small air pressure adjustment to help out the front end of the run. Martin Truex Jr. on top of the Peacock pit box once again. This is the view. Truex going with 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Behind him, Keselowski goes with 2 and will win the race off pit road. Truex had 3 stage wins, Rick, coming into the year. It's coming into this weekend, and he had 2 tonight. How about that?
It's been a great day, but how about the move by Keselowski? Gains 14 spots and wins the race off pit road. About ready to get underway with the third and final stage of the Quaker State 400 from Kentucky Speedway. And Jeff, already we have seen Martin Truex Jr. show his dominance once again at this racetrack, but does Keselowski and that move that he made, does that maybe cause a little bit of grief for the 78 team?
Well, the only guy to win a stage at this racetrack ever is Martin Truex Jr.
Right.
So he's picked up where he left off. The speed he's had has been incredible. We're going to see now how much clean air matters. Keselowski making that move now is going to get him on the front row. We have not seen speed out of him, but now with clean air, can he find it?
All right, Steve Jr., what have you guys seen?
Well, I think we've seen the big three have a lot of speed, but I think there's some other guys that are coming to play. Keselowski comes to mind. Big strategy call. I think you might have made an error here.
I did. I mean, as soon as I move him out of the lineup into the garage and replace him with Blaney, he comes out. It comes out and leading after the pit stop. But them 2 tires, it's going to be a tough situation to be in. We've seen it all night long, but it's getting colder. Grip's coming up in the track. 2 tires could work late in the race, better than it would work earlier in the race when the sun was out.
And Rick, he's slow playing it, but it was a head in hands moment. It was a big deal.
Well, I made the same mistake. I also took Keselowski out of my lineup and put him into the garage. As we get ready for the final stage to get underway. Again, Keselowski with a little strategy on pit road has chosen the outside line. Martin Truex Jr. on the inside line. Back to racing, the Quaker State 400.
It's hard to believe, Rick, but this corner right here for those 2 tires of Brad Keselowski is huge. He has to get that clean air as you see chaos kind of behind him.
Big wiggle back there. Kyle Busch, I believe, got loose. Oh, look at Boyer.
Way up the racetrack goes to 14, and now a little bit of smoke out of the back of that car.
What a save by the 18, though. He caught him in the quarter panel, and he somehow saved it.
Chase Elliott trying to push him through the hole here.
Somebody's going to have to give right here.
Eric Jones in the 20, down low. Chase Elliott just outside of him. They're 2 by 2 behind them.
Business is picking up, Rick. It's the final stage. They know there's no more guaranteed yellows. 100 to go. You have to position yourself for the end of this race.
'18 of Kyle Busch running that high line still. And he has fallen way back. All the way back to 9th. Remember, he was running up in the top 3 with Truex and Harvick. But now Keselowski out front. Here comes Kyle Larson in the 42, working to the inside of Kevin Harvick. Larson making the pass. NASCAR took another look at the restart, said everything was good, and it was exceptional for Brad Keselowski. Here comes Ryan Blaney as well now in the 12.
Let's take a look at the replay of the restart here. See, Kyle Busch gets really loose, starting 3rd on the inside. Blaney right behind him. I don't know whether Blaney got him loose or what, but he had to check up. Right rear steps out. Watch him work this wheel.
4.
Oh, what a slide.
Covered, 3 mid.
Big save. You could hear the rear tire squealing.
And then down here in 3 and 4. Look at this. Up top, Boyer catches him in the left rear. He's up in the gray. I thought he was going around.
Business is picking up, guys.
Yes, it is. Under the lights in Kentucky, and it's getting a little bit more exciting. We have seen this in about every race that we've been at this year.
Here you see right there Kyle Larson. Guys, I think he has a better car than I've given him credit for. He started last, and he gets underneath the 70. You see on the right side of the screen, the 47 comes to pit road, changing lefts. We'll have to get a report maybe if that's a wheel or a tire. But that's just I hate to call it simple, but just a great, solid move by Kyle Larson.
And now the threat is there for Truex. All night long, he's been the dominant car. Now someone passed him. What is my car not doing well enough? That communication now is huge so that his crew chief, Cole Pern, can be thinking about changes so when they come down to pit road, they can make them. Because right now, you've been dominating, and it's frustrating. It makes you mad that somebody takes that lead away from you.
And Jeff, here's the problem when you've led 121 laps and you're the dominant car. Sometimes you don't make changes on stops. They made no changes the last time down for the 78. They didn't even talk about the handling of the car because it's been so good, but you have to keep up with the racetrack. Cole Pern certainly an expert at that. Martin said that was my fault in 3 and 4 last time. I just missed the middle of the corner.
How about the run by the 42? Remember, missing the driver's introductions put him all the way to the back. He's fought his way up to the front, passed probably one of the strongest cars here at the racetrack when he went by the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And now trying to catch that 2 of Brad Keselowski, a 3-time winner here.
And Kyle Larson knows, his team knows, his fans know, everybody knows this is inexcusable to miss driver's introduction. That perhaps is the easiest thing all weekend long. But yet, so now what do? You have to make it up. And that motivates you. That gives you more drive. So if Kyle Larson can win this race, that's how you pay your team back. That's how you say, man, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball, but I made it okay.
It's just a little quick cleanup. We got to report that 47 had a left side tire going down. I think they had some contact. That's why he was on pit road.
The one thing that Kyle Larson doesn't want to do is finish second again. He has already finished 7 times runner-up on mile-and-a-half tracks, but does not have a win. 78 working his way back. Martin Truex Jr. closing the gap on the 42 once again.
So we've seen that 42 work the top of the racetrack, but now in this run, Dale, he seems to be pretty committed to the bottom. I haven't seen him search around much.
Yeah, as it cools off here and we go from day to night, grip rises in the track as the temperature and the surface goes down, there'll be a lot less guys using that high line, and you know, they will get there, but it'll be even later in the run as we go further into the tire run. And Larson said, you know, you don't have to run there. Cars are better.
So we heard Marty with the report on the 78 car had they had not made changes, but that Martin Truex said it was his fault that he lost the lead. Well, right here, look how free he gets. You saw the fire come out of the right side. That's him off the throttle and then going back to the throttle, and that's how Kyle Larson got that big run.
We've really been focused on this 42 and the 78, but what a call by Paul Wolfe. Brad Keselowski, he's out there a little under a second lead on those two right side tires. Brad was right when he said, look, we have to do something. I just need a little track position. Great move. It's hard to believe sometimes, Dale, how much better of a car you have if you can just put it up there at times.
Yeah, I mean, dirty air's hard to deal with, and we're talking.
That was polite, the way you said that. Frustrating for sure.
It is. It's frustrating. I mean, talking from third on back, it's huge. The difference between how your car drives, even in third, fourth, fifth place, is amazing compared to leading the race and having that clean air, even lapping traffic. I mean, it's amazing. You can see the big difference that it's made in Brad's cars. He's, I wouldn't say effortlessly leading this field, but he's got a great lead right now. Larson's got a huge challenge coming up from Martin Truex Jr. Martin down to the bottom here. Back to the throttle. Martin's car was a little slick there early on. Starting to come to him now, Marty.
And there might be a problem with the 42. Kyle Larson said, my track bar is doing the same thing that happened to Jamie in practice. What he's referring to, during practice earlier this week, Jamie McMurray, his teammate, the track bar started moving itself down. Kyle said, I haven't touched it. It's now down to 0.05. They just told him, Chad Johnson said, don't touch it for the rest of the race. Do not touch the track bar, because the more you move it, the more it will move itself. So that's a very interesting situation for the 42.
Martin Truex Jr. won stage one. Then came back, won stage two, but now finds himself in a position to where he's fighting to get back up front. Brad Keselowski leading. NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series returns to New Hampshire Motor Speedway next weekend, which we will all be entertained by that broadcast. But you can get tickets to be at the track, and kids can get tickets for just $10. Go to NASCAR.com/tickets to purchase your tickets tonight.
We heard the report from Kyle Larson that his track bar was moving by itself, and remember that they can move the track bar electrically. They have a button on their steering wheel that they can move it. What we can't see is a button, but what we can show you is the gauge where it shows what it is, and it's minus 5.5. That's saying it's down. The track bar is lower than he wants it to be. The interesting thing is that he's gotten information, don't touch it, because they're afraid it's going to make it worse. What we don't know is if you try to run it back up, would that mean that it would get stuck in one direction? I don't know. It'd be hard for me not to be pushing that thing, trying to get it to go up.
And Jeff, Chad Johnson told him, hey, down the back stretch, try it. And Kyle said, dude, I've been trying it since it started. I didn't listen to you when you said don't touch it. But he's been trying to run that track bar up. It's not working. You can visibly see Kyle Larson getting tighter on the racetrack. When all of it started going down, he was in second. Now he's in fifth, about to lose that spot to Kurt Busch. He's going to fall back to sixth. So what they're going to do, Steve, is on a pit stop, they're going to try, or under caution if they can, try and physically move the track bar up. But again, this happened to his teammate Jamie McMurray in practice earlier this week, just moving down by itself.
That makes it probably even more frustrating to think your teammate had it in practice and there's not a resolution. I mean, those things do happen. So now they need a yellow. I mean, the concern is 78 to go. There's no guaranteed yellows.
But that's a lengthy change. You're going to give up.
It must be going down. Yeah, well, it can't go any lower than it is right now, so stick with it here.
So it's went all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to assume that's 5 inches down from zero where they started. And there's no fix for that if they can't get that track bar back up to its original position or wherever they might want to set it. I don't know of an adjustment they can make, Steve, that'll help him tonight be able to get the push out of that car. It's going to make this car extremely tight. 5 inches is a ton. We typically move the track bar maybe a half an inch to an inch. Maybe the most I would ever see us use that track bar adjuster is maybe 3 inches over the period of a run. 5 is a huge shift in the balance of this car. Dave.
And remember, Kyle Busch restarted on the outside of row 2, then had that adventurous first couple of laps and fell back to 9th. He's only gotten back to 7th and had this to say on the radio.
Vibration this whole run feels like left rear. I got to ride it out as long as we possibly can. Keep me posted.
So far, not coming to pit road, riding it out.
Battle for the lead's closing up here. We got it on the left. Brad Keselowski and Mark Truex Jr. Truex Jr. closing in on with those newer tires. Brad's hanging on though, man. It's real surprising to me that he hung on so well.
Yeah, I mean, they've run 27 laps, so this has worked for almost 30 laps, much longer than I expected.
I like Brad's speed early in the race, and I thought he would do pretty well on these tires, but I didn't think he'd be leading the race at this point. Put himself in position to get a win here if he can hang on to this position. As Martin moves in for the kill.
You see right there, the tire's taken. you talked about Keselowski, and we also heard that radio from the 18 and that report of riding it out. Well, with 74 to go, if he can ride out another 10 laps, they know they can make it on fuel. At that point, they can choose to come to pit road if they feel that vibration's getting worse. That's really what I think they're trying to do, is get in their fuel window.
Get inside the window, yep.
Gap down to 0.3 of a second between Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. And really, when do the tires equal out? I mean, yeah, he had a 4-tire stop, the 78 did, and just a 2-tire stop for Keselowski. But now that they've run, as you mentioned, Steve, 28, 29 laps, does that ever balance out?
Well, you would think actually the 2 tires have the best chance at the start of the run, and as they age, those lefts are really starting to age. Remember, we saw the 88 of Alex Bowman have a failure because he got so tight. I would imagine that's what's happening to the 2, is it just continues to get tighter and tighter as he runs on those 2 tires.
Unlike Larson, though, he has that track bar adjuster in that car to use and raise that thing up as it starts to tighten up on these 2 tires. Heard him earlier get information from his crew chief to use those tools. There's a lot of things that you can do here, especially on corner entry, how funky the entry to turn 3 is and how loose those guys are. They can do a lot of things with their brakes to make the car tighter on entry. It's where the brake levers are going to help you the most, is really entering the corner on the brake pedal.
So guys, we've been focusing on the front all night long, and back in the pack, something I've watched tonight is Matt Kenseth's performance. We know the story. Matt Kenseth taking this 6 car over. Roush Fenway struggling. Matt's running 6:17. That doesn't sound great, but that's a step forward. That's a small step forward for this Roush Fenway team, finding a little bit of speed when we know Matt Kenseth is so good as managing a race. So if they can stay in the lead lap and continue to make small improvements, that was what you need to see. Anybody thought that Matt Kenseth was going to sit in this car and drive it to the front, they had unrealistic expectations. But this is what this team needs to see a battle for the lead.
Here comes the 78 of Mark Truex Jr. now all over the back bumper of Brad Keselowski.
It's going to be a difficult pass to make. Look at, wow.
Wobble there out of Mark Truex Jr., and he'll drop back a couple more car lengths.
You were saying it's going to be a difficult pass, and that's exactly why. Once you get close to that guy, all the air leaves your car, and whatever handling problem you have, it makes it that much worse.
Yeah, the closer he gets to Brad, the tougher it is. And I just think that, you know, you'd want to move around maybe and try that high line, even as late as it is, and that bottom is cooking. I mean, these guys are whipping around the bottom really good. Not sure the top is an option at this particular point, but you'd think you'd go up there and try it if you kind of get stuck behind Brad here in dirty air. Haven't seen Martin really run the top at all tonight.
So if you're, you know, Dale, so the 78 you mentioned going to the top, and he has, what, about a second back to the 3rd position. So if he's going to search around, I would think he'd want to do it now before 3rd catches him.
The lap times are so much faster right now than they were earlier in the race. Yeah. They're just not falling off as much, and so that top's not going to really be an option for everyone. A couple guys will make some time up there, but with this kind of lap time at a 30-50, I mean, that's super fast. You're not going to get around the top much better than that.
Well, if you're Truex, that's exactly what you wanted to see. All the trouble you're having behind the 2 as he makes a move.
There it goes to 2. He got loose and sideways, and now the 78 makes a move. That time it was Keselowski who had the bobble, and the 78 takes advantage of it.
But what Truex needed was he needed the 2 car to have a disadvantage, and that disadvantage was when they caught the 32. And when they caught him, now Keselowski is disadvantaged aerodynamically. So that's what Truex needed. Truex knew that. He saw that coming. He knew he had to put pressure on. That was his opportunity, and he seized on it.
Martin Truex Jr. wins stage 1, wins stage 2. The 2 gets loose and back out front. Martin Truex Jr. leading at Kentucky again. J.J. Yaley in the 23 brings out just the 4th caution of the night. And in the wall and stopped up against that wall right in turn 4.
See tons of smoke out of the back of that car. What do you think, Steve? Some sort of an engine problem?
Yeah, I mean, the smoke has to come from either tire or fluid. I don't see any tires down or rubbing a fender, so looks like some sort of fluid. A lot of smoke out of those right side pipes.
And Steve, the 11 car was on pit road.
Keep the old rods in place.
He was on pit road when that caution came out. They went ahead and serviced the car. That's going to put him a lap down, but well, maybe it's not. It should put him a lap down, but he should be able to stay out and get the free pass and get back in the lead lap.
Looked as though J.J. Yaley was waving to the crew, hey, give me a shove, just push me back to pit road. You still got the window net up.
Got him chalked up there like an airplane. See that?
Yeah, the left rear tire. It ain't gonna roll like that.
Yeah, man. Driver gets out, doesn't have it gear, I think it take off.
Well, if he wants it shoved, then it couldn't have blown up. I'm not sure what happened there.
I
but
think he just wants to, wants to be pushed on into the garage. He'll take care of it, but don't want to get out and go through the whole hassle of getting in the ambulance and all that.
Well, once he gets out, his day is over. But
I think the old NASCAR official is going to tell him what he's going to do.
Yeah.
They're still talking to him. He still doesn't want to get out of that car, it looks like.
Well, it's interesting because to your point, I mean, if it blew up, he'd want to get out, but maybe he thinks there's nobody see his helmet coming off now.
Yeah. Look at the tail, though. There's no, I mean, there's a little bit of dirt there, but not a lot of oil like you'd see if it really blew up. But, man, that was a ton of smoke.
Yeah.
Could have blown a power steering line off or something like that.
So now does this level the playing field between Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch? All of them will be coming to pit road, and now their crews so much more important because this will determine how they come off of pit road and how they restart. Dave.
Rick, third place Kevin Harvick broke it down into 3 segments. Bad at the start of the run, good in the middle, not so great at the end. Crew Chief Rodney Childers will make an air pressure adjustment to the right rear Goodyear tire to help the good stay longer, Marty.
Dave, it's gotten much cooler here in Kentucky, so you're going to see a lot of teams put tape on the front grille, including Brad Keselowski's team, whose temps are 20 under optimal. He said he's loose into 3, tight and the exit of 4, and they were going to do air pressure adjustment as well. Pitted right in front of him, Martin Truex Jr., the leader. He says he's a little bit tight early in the run, but he's pretty happy with it about 10 laps into the run. 4 fresh Goodyear tires for everyone. The 41 with a little strategy play. 2 tires, he'll win the race off pit road.
It's going to be 41, and then Martin Truex Jr. looks like he'll come off of second. So Kurt Busch, a 2-tire stop for the 41 team. Marty.
And Kyle Larson coming into pit road. They had a very lengthy conversation about how they can fix this track bar situation. Again, it was moving itself down. Chad Johnson said, in the essence of not wanting to lose track position, let's do it with wedge. So you can see them make several wedge adjustments. Steve, you can walk us through that, what that's like, trying to fix that track bar situation for Kyle Larson.
Yeah, they're just trying to offset it. Dale, you mentioned what adjustments can offset the track bar. None are the same, but you can just try to get the balance back correct for Larson as close as you can get it by changing the wedge.
A little bit of work there for Kyle Larson. Working with that adjustment. Kurt Busch, track strategy. The Monster Energy Cup Series race from Kentucky. 56 laps to go in the Monster Energy Cup Series race from Kentucky Speedway. This telecast presented by Toyota. I want to take a look at the Toyota driver updates. Martin Truex Jr. currently second. Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez all inside the top 10. It's been an incredible race already, and we have seen pit strategy put different teams up front. We've seen a lot of great races. Looking forward to next week and another great race from the Magic Mile. Kyle Busch will win at New Hampshire.
Jenseth will have the pleasure of hoisting the lobster.
Yes, sir, DH. That's what I'm talking about. Nice work, guys.
And again, a little bit of an unconventional broadcast that we're looking forward to next week. At least I'm looking forward to it, because those three guys right there will take all of the race calls from the booth. I'm actually going to go down to pit road and see just how easy those guys have it.
I think you're going to see how easy we have it.
Oh.
I think that's what you're going to learn. And I think what I'm going to learn is how easy you make this look. I am nervous about reading. Hey, you know, we don't have hockey, do we? Because I can't pronounce the goalie's name. It's not going to happen.
Tour de France, Rick. Tour de France. We have to use some cyclist names.
They're just as difficult.
Yeah, I'm just going to say they have to climb a hill. I'm not going to name the mountain. I can't pronounce it.
I think your Southern Virginia accent would be perfect saying French names.
Okay. We might find out. Sounds scary to me.
Looking forward to this one, though, coming to an end. 55 laps still to go. And what a difficult situation it has been for Kyle Larson after working his way from back to front. Then he has a track bar problem inside the car. So, Steve, talk us through how they're trying to fix that.
Yeah, so a gentleman goes under the back of the car. The adjuster inside won't work. The track bar is dropping. He's going to try to make a manual change. You see him underneath there frantically working on the track bar, trying to raise it up, get it into position, and actually clamp it there. Take away the adjustment, but at least put it where it needs to be. You know, they continue to work on it. You see this David Bryant right there, the car chief. He gets on the radio. They make the decision they cannot move the track bar. It's mangled. It's locked in position. So now we're going to make a wedge adjustment. A big wedge adjustment's a couple rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 rounds in the right rear is huge. And it looks like about another 7 rounds out of the left. That is taking a ton of wedge out. So basically, as that track bar drops, the car gets very, very, very tight. So now they've just taken all the wedge out, which is not the same, but you're just trying to crutch it at this point. 54 to go. On this last set of pit stops, another issue. We have the 31 right here. They're going to have a penalty for removing equipment. So you see they're servicing the left side. They drop the jack. And right there, you see the guy trying to catch the adjuster wrench out of the window. It was still in there, so he moved it out of the pit box. That's a penalty. Same penalty we saw Jimmy Johnson get last week. You can't do anything to the car outside the pit box.
So we mentioned, Steve, the 11 cars on pit road when this caution came out, but he stayed out on the racetrack, got the wave around, so he's back in the lead lap.
Coming up to the back of the field as they get ready for the restart. 53 to go when they come back to the line. Kurt Busch, a 2-tire stop has put him in position now as the race leader. Martin Truex Jr. was in this similar position when Brad Keselowski tried the same thing. It took him almost 30 laps to get back up front. Fans on their feet, waving the green flag in their hands as they come back through the restart. Green flag back in the air.
Blaney with a great restart. Keselowski pushing him.
Martin Truex Jr. surging on the inside. But look at Kurt Busch go on the high line.
Kyle Busch had some trouble on the bottom down there in 1 and 2. Shuffled a few cars back, tightened everybody up behind him. That bottom's so tough. Look, Daniel
Off
Suarez.
the racetrack, Daniel Suarez. Looks as though he caught the 10 of Eric Almirola. But Suarez catches it.
How they didn't wreck, I have no idea. You're right, he's backing up big time, lost a ton of positions, but he's probably got to be happy he wasn't in a wreck, Suarez.
Suarez on the outside, 3 wide.
They're wanting a wreck. 3 wide into 3.
Bubba Wallace just able to sneak in front of that 34 of Michael McDowell and clear him. Still 2 wide, 4 positions. Chris Buescher on the outside in the 37 with the 19 of Daniel Suarez. And jockeying for positions all over the racetrack now. And look at what time it is. Steve, we saw this yesterday. The sprinklers just automatically come on. It must be around 10 o'clock. Maybe we should look at Denny Hamlin's.
Yeah.
If we look at Denny Hamlin's dash, we'll know exactly what time it is.
Maybe that's why he had the time on there. He knew 10 o'clock the sprinklers were coming on.
Well, I tell you what, it's got pit road wet. The end of pit road on the outside lane is actually wet.
Yeah, we saw sprinklers come on right immediately after the Xfinity race. They have them on a timer, apparently. Didn't shut that timer off.
Maybe that's why my grass at home is brown.
Kevin Harvick to the inside of Eric Jones. Remember, Eric Jones had a vibration.
That was close.
He has rebounded back and now running in the 7th position. But Kevin Harvick moving to the front. Logano right on his back bumper.
Harvick had a bad pit stop, lost some spots on that last
So did Clint
on pit road, and that really hurt him.
So did Clint Boyer. He's working past Jones as well. Oh, look at him get loose, chasing the car at the racetrack.
And that's what happens, Junior. You have bad pit stops. It puts you back further. You have to race harder to try to get to the front. That is a problem with these Stewart-Haas teams. They're going to have to find a way moving into the playoffs to have better pit stops. You can see right here, 14-car Boyer drives in there, drives in just a little too deep, loses the bottom. Nice save.
Oh, look out. Look at the small picture down here.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson.
Man, Boyer pinched him so hard down in that corner. Didn't give Jimmy much chance there.
So much momentum lost now out of the 48. He is falling back.
Less than 50 to go.
Steve, enough fuel. They don't have to come back to pit road.
How about David Reagan, Steve, at the 38 car?
Yeah, it's a great run for the 38 David Reagan all the way up to 13th position. And yes, Rick, they're good on fuel, and I think that's why you're seeing what you saw. Dale, you talked about how the 48 and the 14 didn't give each other any room because they know if the yellow doesn't come out, this is it. This is the run to the finish.
41 still in front of the 78. Kurt Busch, after using that high line on the restart to take the lead, now has a mere full of Martin Truex Jr. This is what Martin Truex Jr. was able to do to Brad Keselowski earlier, right on his back bumper until Keselowski made a mistake. A little bobble, and then right by he went.
Right behind these guys, Ryan Blaney sneaking into this picture. Showed some great speed in this particular part of the race.
That's where Brian's been so good. Ryan's been so good, Junior, is on these early part of the runs. He needs to do all he can to try to get in front of Truex and Busch and then maybe hold him off. He just hasn't had good speed on long runs tonight.
That's right. He was the fastest that time by at a 29.58.
Good run by Truex right here. Big run to the middle of the corner.
Coming to the inside. Door to door as they cross the stripe. And new leader once again at Kentucky. Martin Truex Jr.
All right, baby, sit still here now.
A year ago at this racetrack, Martin Truex Jr. had increased his lead over second place by 15 seconds as they came down to the final laps. And then a caution came out. They had to have a restart. He was able to surge out front, but I don't think Ryan Blaney's going to let him get away.
Well, Junior, that was huge right there. Blaney getting by Busch as quickly as it did. That kept him in the ball game, Marty.
And guys, I don't know what time it says on Denny Hamlin's dash, but hopefully it says the sprinklers, which just now shut off, thank goodness. But that is a very large puddle on pit road. You mentioned it, Jeff. That's right in front of Ryan Blaney's pit stall. We get another caution, we come down pit road. That's going to be a factor that NASCAR is going to have to deal with.
And remember, these tires are slick, so they do not work well in water.
Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, the top 5.
That last time by Truex just a little bit quicker than Blaney. Blaney had to have been hoping that Kurt was going to hold Truex a little bit longer there.
But as soon as Truex gets by, he's showing what he's capable of. A little more speed out of that car than Blaney has.
And 42 to go. And they've known it since the restart. The action was heavy, not just at the front of the field, but back here. The 14 of Clint Boyer, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Tight racing here at Kentucky. We're going to go NASCAR nonstop.
Truex Jr. with a little over 1 second lead over Ryan Blaney, who's running second here in the Bluegrass State. We will be with you until the checkered flags. Unless a caution comes out, then we'll sneak a quick break in there. But 35 laps of racing still to go. And Keselowski tried a little strategy earlier and it put him up front and has kept him up here in the top three. Right now, he's running in the third position. Kurt Busch tried a little strategy as well. He's still in the top five, running in fourth. I want to take a look at tonight's Ram trucks proven to last.
Yeah, Rick, it starts with the 78. I know he's won races this year, but he has yet to win on a mile-and-a-half track. If the 2017 champion wants to become the 2018 favorite, he has to win on mile-and-a-half tracks, which he's leading and dominating this race so far.
He's driving away about a 10th a lap over Ryan Blaney, but can Blaney catch him? Can Blaney change his line, do anything to make a race out of this with 33 to go?
And that late race caution that we see so often, if it does come out, who's going to have the nerve to take two? Or better yet, Rick, stay out altogether for track position.
Track position has been so critical tonight. We've seen it. It's been critical for 20 to 25 laps, but then it seems as though the strongest car in Martin Truex Jr. has always risen to the top and been able to get up front and continue to lead. He has won the first stage, won the second stage, and now out front again. He's already led 142 laps in this race. Take a look at the last two races at Kentucky. We mentioned earlier, no one has ever won a stage at Kentucky other than Martin Truex Jr. because stage racing started last year. He was able to go up and win both stages and the race last year. Now has won the first 2 stages here out front, and potentially is going to lead more laps than he led a year ago. We mentioned last year and what a dominant performance he had put on. He went out and was leading the first 2 stages, won the first 2 stages, had a 15-second lead, and had to have a great restart at the end to win the race. Like we've seen tonight, that outside line worked. Cars wrecked behind him, and he was able to come back to the checkered flag and capture the victory. A year ago, it was Martin Truex Jr. who was dominant on mile-and-a-half tracks. And as we just saw, in the Ram proven to last, he hasn't won at a mile-and-a-half track this year, but he's looking to change those statistics tonight.
Rick, he's got top 4 finishes in 7 of the last 8 races. And when this season started, about maybe 8 or 10 races in, I didn't think that he was on par with Kevin Harvick for sure, or Kyle Busch. But over the last 7 races, or the last 8 races, this team has probably been the best team.
Yep.
I mean, they're in championship form. Some of the rule changes in the offseason affected them and took a little speed out of their car, and you got to give it to Cole Pern and the whole organization. They have found that speed. What else will they find before we get to Vegas?
Well, Judy, you mentioned Blaney, and you're wondering if he can run him down. Well, here's how far he's got to go. So this is about a 1.5 seconds that Truex has gotten out on Blaney. They're running about the same lap time. Truex is just a little bit quicker, but Blaney in that red and white car at the back of this line, that's the difference. That's what he's got to make up. To do that, Truex is going to have to, I'm not going to say have a problem, but he's going to have to lose the handling on his car later in this run. So far tonight, Truex hasn't shown that weakness, but as Steve mentioned earlier, the track's cooler now than it's been. The cars are different. That may happen, and if it does, Blaney will be right there.
27 laps to go, and let's go through the field. Let's start with Marty.
And Rick, it's hard to believe that if Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pern can pull off this win tonight, it will be their first mile-and-a-half win of 2018 and trying for a second perfect race of the year. As you mentioned, winning stage 1, 2, and the win. Ryan Blaney, though, wants to upset that, and he said the car turned so well in the middle part of the run, but this is the test for the 12 car. At the end of the run, they get too tight. How about the rally for Brad Keselowski? You guys mentioned it. The penalty on the very first stop of the night fell back to 30 seconds. Paul Wolfe with the move for 2 tires, and they've held on to that track position right now in 3rd, Dave.
Kyle Busch restarted 4th. He has stayed there. That lack of rear grip and that litany of tightness he told his crew about is still somewhat there. He hasn't made any progress. As for older brother Kurt, 2 tires on the restart. He got to leading the laps, but he has not been able to keep the 41 car up there. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to win the race he needs to, or win the end of the stage and take home bonus points like they so desperately need. As for the 4 of Kevin Harvick, no grip lately. That's why he's more than 8 seconds behind the leader. Kelly?
Eric Jones has had his hands full with this 20 car. Remember, at one point he had the vibration, thought he was blowing up. Well, hasn't improved much. He says he is way too tight. This car is impossible to drive. The team just telling him to find his rhythm. He's had some fast lap times and he's running 7th, Marty.
Kelly, remember earlier we wondered why Todd Gordon stayed out at the end of stage 1? Well, he flipped the track position, got Joey Logano in the top 10, and he has stayed there all evening long. They took Brad Keselowski's complete setup, Parker. Clearly it's working out for the 22 tonight.
That it is, but hot on his heels there is the 10 car of Eric Almirola. You know, earlier today I saw him in his hauler working with his crew chief, John Klotzmeyer. I said, what are you looking at? He said, I'm looking at the data of our car versus other cars on the long run. We need to be better on the long run, and they've been able to work on that car throughout the night to make a little bit on the long run. Right now, struggling with a lack of side bite on the exit of the corners. Behind him in 10th, Paul Menard. What a great night for this 21 car. Remember back in Chicago, they had a lot of speed, but they weren't able to use it in the race. This night, they ran the top 10 throughout the night, and he's just struggling a little bit in 3 and 4 right now, Dave.
Parker, we've watched what happened to the 14 of Clint Boyer. Lost spots on pit road. I talked to the team. They just told me, yep, it was sloppy. Clint was not happy about it. And then contact with the 48 on track. His day has gone in the tank, Kelly.
Chase Elliott needs to collect all the playoff points he can. Well, his crew chief Ellen Gustin said, hey, good news is we have good consistency in the car. Bad news is they're still just lacking speed, especially compared to some of the other teams. Chase has had a pretty consistent car running just outside the top 10, Marty.
Kelly, the stats on your screen are correct. Kyle Larson is in 13th after the track bar that decided it was going to go down by itself. They fixed that with 14 rounds of wedge, and he's been a top 5 car ever since. And very impressive, Kyle Larson up to 13.
And the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, things getting a little bit heated. We saw that contact between the 48 and the 14. Well, Jimmy was pretty upset over the radio at Clint Boyer. That's just a sign of the frustration that this team has endured. But Chad Knaus, the crew chief, telling me, hey, it's not for lack of effort. We are trying absolutely everything we can to get this car better week in, week out, Parker.
Behind him is Jay McMurray. It's been a very utilitarian night for the one car here. They just have not had the speed to get in the top 10. They've gotten close, as high as 12th at one point in this race, but just have not been able to hold the car up there at the top 10. Right now, fighting a bit of a tight condition. You see him using that high line, trying to mimic his teammate there, the 42, Dave.
Parker, Daniel Suarez runs in the 16th position. In turns 1 and 2, his car will not turn well. The worst condition, loose into turn 3, and that's tough at Kentucky.
It's a great rundown for all those teams. And something else that's going on tonight is a race within a race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came into this race 19 points back from Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman blew that tire, got in a wreck in the wall. Now he's in the garage. Well, now he's cut that. Now he's only 9 points behind Alex Bowman. So although Stenhouse is running in 26th position, he's still making ground into that 16th spot. As points go along, one of the things that we talked about when this show started, Rick, was points. Not only for guys trying to get in the playoffs, but these playoff points going to the people that are contending for the championship, that have already won races and that are in. So as they run now, look how close it would be. Kyle Busch 30, Harvick 27, Truex 20. That's assuming he wins the race. They're all within 10 points. That's huge for Truex to narrow that gap. Winning these stages, and if he can win this race, it's so important to enter these playoffs with as many playoffs points as possible.
I talked to Kevin Harvick this week, and he told me the critical thing for them going forward every single week is to try to get as many of them playoff points as they can. They want about a 1-race buffer going into the playoffs to help propel them through the rounds in case they do have a disastrous race. And so you see that as well back there for that battle for 16th. A guy, Chase Elliott, is actually building that cushion for himself as he's in 14th or 15th right now, 51 points up. He's grown his lead a little bit on that 17th position of Ricky Stenhouse.
So my mother at home is watching, is not going to be surprised that I'm bad at math. So I said he would be 20 points. He'd have 20 points. Martin Truex Jr. actually have 25 points. So he would cut that lead to only 5 points. So these races matter. And it's not just, hey, I won another race. It's giving yourself a shot to win this championship.
And Jeff, Martin Truex Jr. admitted to us in Countdown to Green earlier today, yeah, it's a battle among the big three because they have to match each other for those playoff points. And Truex reminded me of something. He said, I only have to go back 2 years. We had one of the best cars in 2016, and we were eliminated at Talladega because we didn't have enough bonus points. So, yeah, they're thinking it all the time. He needs all the points he can get for those playoffs coming up.
And remember, I hate to be Captain Obvious, but the big three continuing to win races. 5 wins for Kevin Harvick, 5 wins for Kyle Busch, and this could end up being the 4th win for Martin Truex Jr. already this season.
It helps get those guys through the rounds into the playoffs, but also doesn't get any playoff points to anyone else. So Clint Boyer, Keselowski, even Blaney, all these guys that want to try to be that 4th car or try to be any car that gets to Homestead, you're going to have the workout out for them getting through those rounds in the playoffs.
Well, what's momentum do for you? Look at the 20 of Eric Jones. I know earlier in the day he was frustrated. He reported a vibration. Lost some track position. Just got outrun on the racetrack outside the top 10 pretty easily. Weathered the storm. You mentioned it. Stay calm. It's a long race. Put yourself in position. Here he is, 7th. We talk about these younger drivers, right? He got that win that we all expected him to get eventually. He got it last week at Daytona. This may only be a 7th in the record book if he ends right here, but it's more than a 7th. You know, it's understanding the length of these races, staying patient, letting them come to you. Later in his career, maybe later in the season, maybe next week, that patience will turn into another win.
And Steve, what's impressive about that is he's putting a string of top 10s together. If he finishes this race where he's running, that'd be 4 top 10s in a row. That's what you want to see from a young driver, to have speed, but also consistency. You have to learn that at this level. So Erik Jones is starting to come into his own at the top level of racing.
Well, another organization that may not get the win here in Kentucky, but has to feel good about their showing is Penske. Team Penske currently running 2nd and 3rd. Joey Logano in 9th. All 3 cars inside the top 10. You know, the last true mile and a half before the playoffs start, a big test. A lot of organizations looking at making improvements. Dale, it's got to be a good feeling if you're one of these Team Penske drivers to see the improvement on the racetrack.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski said that he felt like he was part of the B team. When talk about the big 3, they're the A team. Felt like he was in that 2nd tier, and runs like tonight give you that confidence that you're making some gains. He's got a lot of success here, and Penske always has great speed here, but still, you take a lot away from tonight when you can run up in the top 3. Marty.
Hey, Junior, look who's in the top 10. How about Kyle Larson? Guess who's the fastest car on the track? Yep, Kyle Larson. After those 14 rounds of wedge to fix the track bar that had broken earlier in the race. And you know, you never know what goes into winning a championship. Nights like this, it could have very easily been a 25th place finish for this 42 team. It's going to be a top 10 for Kyle Larson tonight, and those spots could be critical when it comes to the cut time, not only in Las Vegas, but later on down the road.
Marty, you're exactly right, and not only the value of points, but the value of pride, the value of never quitting. Hey, we had some adversity, but we fought together, and we clawed out a finish. That is stuff that you cannot pay for, that confidence it gives a race team.
They have these simulations that give them the information. What can we do to the car that would match that balance shift? What can we undo or change to the car that would give us the same balance shift? It might not be the exact same adjustment, but they made the right choice to give him some sort of a competitive car. And he's also moved that 3rd groove way beyond halfway up the racetrack. He's really been chasing that high line, and that's going to also help free the car up. So got to give it to the crew, but you also got to give it to Larson for being able to move around on the racetrack to find where his car has speed.
Yeah, it's just a perfect example of how that technology works, right? 7 rounds on each side of the rear window is a huge adjustment, but I don't believe it was a guess. As you said, it was something calculated.
Difficult, though, as the laps continue to wind down. Less than 7 laps to go in this race, as Martin Truex Jr. has now almost a 2.5-second lead over Ryan Blaney. As you continue to watch the 42 of Kyle Larson move his way up, trying to take another position, move up to 9th in front of Joey Logano. But there's just not enough time left in this race unless a caution were to come out. But still, that would be a big jump to go from 9th and to get by the fastest car that's been on the racetrack all night. Martin Truex Jr. A dominant performance, led over 168 laps already.
Well, another car having a good night. You see that green and white 21 of Paul Menard. Paul Menard's running 11th position. He came into this race, he is 55 points back. He now is only 23 points back. That's a gain of 32 points in one race. So solid night for Paul Menard and his team.
Less than 5 laps to go. Make sure to stay with us for post-race coverage. Over an hour of post-race coverage from right here at Kentucky Speedway. And now, coming up on 4 laps. 4 more times around. 6 miles remain for Martin Truex Jr. This was about the time a year ago when a caution came out, and he had to have a great restart. They went into overtime for that restart. Martin Truex Jr. Just like most kids grow up, you go to work with your dad. Well, his dad in New Jersey had a fishing company where he went out on the clam boat. And so as a young kid going out on that, working with dad, but dad also was interested in racing. And Martin Truex Jr. took to it right away. Won the championship a year ago and now trying to defend that title, as he has definitely separated himself with the other big 3 this season as one of the favorites for the championship.
Rick, you mentioned the 78. his story of how he got into this race car and really the performance they put on last year to win the championship. You know, it was later in the year last year. You know, he didn't start winning in February or March. It took him a little bit to get to victory lane. Once he figured it out, they truly dominated. He actually got his wins a little bit earlier this year, but it was still lacking that mile-and-a-half win. That's what he's trying to do tonight, Rick.
One of the other things he's trying to do is make sure that his owner, Barney Visser, is going to be there to see the championship run. We come up on 1 lap to go, presented by Credit One Bank. Barney Visser actually had a heart attack prior to the Homestead Miami race and wasn't able to travel to Miami to celebrate that championship run by Martin Truex Jr. And as we've mentioned, the playoff points so important in advancing from round to round to round in the playoffs. And of course, one driver is going to get to the championship round on points. More points going to Martin Truex Jr. as he wins in Kentucky.
Oh yeah, Martin, way to be picture. Great night, guys, great night. Hell yeah.
Started the day telling Marty Snyder, I need points. I need playoff points. I need to win stages. I need to win races. Well, you can't get any more points than what Martin Truex Jr. did tonight. Sweeping the stages, winning the race. Another dominant performance for Martin Truex Jr. There's team owner Barney Visser. Now 4 wins on the season. And what a burnout. This moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. We have to remember that the road to this win was not an easy one for Martin Truex Jr. He had to pass for the lead multiple times tonight.
In the stats, it'll look like the same it did last year, but it wasn't easy as it was last year.
Car's rolling, Martin. Careful.
Oh, no. Watch out.
Careful, Martin. Martin.
Let it go.
And
let it go. Just let it go.
Goes.
Let it go on down there.
You're missing something.
Don't worry about that.
We'll let Martin Truex Jr. unbuckle. I think you ought to take these fans from Kentucky everywhere you go because they do pretty right by you, don't they?
They sure do. We love coming here. You know, I rode around on the golf cart today to go out and see all the auto owners people, and I was just amazed by all the fans out there at the Midway, and it looked like everybody's having a great time, and saw a lot of 78 gear. So I want to thank all of you for coming out, man. What a hell of a night this was.
How about you? You told me earlier today, I need points, I need the lead laps, I need stage wins. I don't think you can do it any better than that, can you?
That's what we try to do every single week, but it shows just how hard it is. You know, we made it look easy last year, but it certainly wasn't. And just hats off to my guys for sticking with me all year. We've really been working hard on these race cars to try to figure it out, and we've had some great fans sticking behind us and a lot of partners that have made it happen. So 5 Hour Auto Owners and, you know, Bass Pro Toyota, everybody that makes it happen. But most importantly, these fans for coming out. We wouldn't be here without them.
How are you going to get your car to victory lane? You got a little bit of a walk.
I'm going to drive it.
Okay, good.
It still runs.
All right, Martin Truex Jr., car and all, they're going to go to victory lane here in just a moment. But first, a little business at the start-finish line for the checkered flag, and these fans are loving it, Rick.
You let it go, right, Junior? If your car's going to roll away, just let it go.
I think it's pretty heavy. I wouldn't get in front of it.
No. Another checkered flag for Martin Truex Jr. 19th career win for Martin in a very up and down career. But the pinnacle was last year when he won the championship, and now he is putting himself in a position where he's becoming once again a favorite for this year's title. After he acknowledges the crowd. He mentioned the midway, saw that as I was coming in today too. A carnival atmosphere here, everybody having fun, getting ready for tonight's race, and they saw a dominant performance as we look at the playoff standings past the halfway point of the season. Again, now there's only 7 races remaining before the playoffs get underway. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick with 5 wins now. With tonight's win, Martin Truex Jr., 4 wins. Again, the big 3 have separated themselves. You see the playoff points that they have been able to accumulate. Those will help them advance from round to round and potentially into the championship at Homestead, Miami at the end of the season. Only 7 drivers have won this year after 19 races. Some of the fewest numbers of race winners through this point of the season. And you know the 78, he was just in victory lane a year ago. He knows how to get to victory lane, and he's going to have people help, but
I'm not so sure about that.
Now he's going to have to back up. Somebody might have led him astray.
He's lost.
Well,
it's over there.
Yeah, they're trying to get him into the right spot.
That's a great problem to have, Rick.
He wants to get there because he knows his team's there, and the best place to celebrate is with the guys that have helped you get to victory lane.
He has completely changed the way this is supposed to work. That was the least of his problems. And when you're standing on the door and your car starts to roll, what do, Rick? You abandon ship.
Just let her go.
I think the post-race has been more eventful than during the race for Martin Truex.
Heads in the air. And steam coming out the base of the windshield. Maybe he needs to get out and let the car drive itself. And so while he's trying to get into victory lane, let's go to Parker.
Brad Keselowski led 38 laps, finished third. You got the lead through some strategy. Looked like that might work out. Were you game with that?
Yeah, Parker was a good call from our crew chief, Paul Wolf, but we just, had better speed than we've had in the mile and a half, but not enough to run with the 7. Yeah, he eventually got by us there, and I thought we might have had a shot on it if we could have restarted 4th there, but we kind of cycled back to 6th, and it wasn't enough to be able to make something happen there. But all in all, a decent day. I hate that I kind of dug a hole early in the race with the speeding on pit road. We were just racing 18 off of pit road and just tried to get a little bit too much, but we'll take this and hopefully build off of it for the mile and a halves in the playoffs. So it's going to be really important, and looking forward to next week in Loudon. I think we're going to be really good there.
Where would you assess the Team Penske Fords are right now in comparison to those Toyotas you had to race against tonight?
We took a step up this week, but obviously we weren't as good as the 78. So it was a nice little boost, but we still have some work to do.
Yep. Brad Keselowski getting a solid 3rd place finish.
So it'll go down as a 2nd place finish for Ryan Blaney. But Ryan, after the last few races that you've had some difficult weeks, how big of a win is this?
It's not a win. It's a positive, that's for sure. Man, I hate it. I thought we were in a good spot there, restarting 4th, and Martin struggled a little bit the first couple laps, and I thought I could get by him and just couldn't quite get a run on him, and his car came in and mine kind of faded a little bit, and he won the race. So that stunk. Man, I thought we had a shot at it tonight, but really proud of the gains we made all race, though, to be honest with you. I didn't think we were a 2nd place car at the beginning of the race, and we got a lot better throughout the night. So Jeremy Bowens and everybody did a great job, and I can't thank Dex Imaging and Ford and Menards enough for what they do. And you said after the last few weeks we've had, this is a very good positive for us. Hopefully we can keep it going in the right direction.
And as you turn around, you saw your teammate Brad Keselowski also there in the top 5. Do you feel like you guys, is this a sign you're closing the gap?
I hope so. That's really all you can hope for. But you never know. 78, he kind of dominated the night. They had a really great race car and they did a good job. And they've done that all year. We just got to keep working hard, like we all have been at Team Penske, and just trying to keep closing that gap and to be in where we dominate races and we lead a bunch of laps. So hopefully we get there soon.
And now the scene in victory lane. He found it. And he celebrates. I was going to ask you about the emergency brake. Perhaps I should ask you about the navigation system. Thanks for joining us. What happened?
How long ago was I out there? The NASCAR official took me down the wrong turn. He disappeared. I couldn't see anything. I was overheating so bad. Dang windshield was fogged up, and I couldn't see anything. But finally made it here. And man, what an awesome night. I mean, what a race car. Cole and Jazzy and James and Pete and all the guys come up with one hell of a setup for here. And we thought we were good yesterday, and we tweaked on it for today. And my goodness, the thing was good. So, you know, get tired of thanking everybody, but I don't. I mean, there's a lot of people we couldn't do this without. Beechcraft, Cessna, Garmin, all my partners at MTJ, all the guys at TRD. I think I hurt your engine a little bit. It smells bad, and I never had one overheat that bad, but what can I say about the team and Barney and everybody that gives us the things we need? JGR Chassis Shop and Body Shop for their collaboration, making this possible, and just this is one hell of a race team. I'm so lucky to drive for them. I'm just enjoying myself, and say hi to Sherry at home, say hi to everybody back home in Jersey, and Bass Pro, Johnny wasn't here tonight. John Pell was here, so we're going to drink a couple beers for John L. But auto owners in 5 Hour, Denver Mattress Furniture Row. Again, just everybody that helps us out. This is so much fun, I can't even tell you.
Party's just getting started. 2 in a row now for Martin Truex in dominating fashion at Kentucky.
And Jeff, if there was a question mark, I guess, as maybe a little bit of a weakness to start this season, it was, can he win again on the 1.5-mile tracks? Well, I think he's just proven to us that he can. Can this now put him as far as the Big Three, as the leader of the Big Three for the championship run?
Well, what we've seen so far is they've all found a way to step up. So one guy, you know, it's Kevin Harvick, like, oh my goodness, Kevin Harvick's better than those guys. And then Kyle Busch stepped up. Now Martin Truex and his team has stepped up. So what I'm waiting for is who is going to step up outside of those guys. We saw Keselowski tonight. They had problems early, but he overcame it, had a good finish. Ryan Blaney ran well all night long. So there's 2 Penske cars that ran very well. Are we going to start to see them show more power that we expect to see and become championship contenders?
Steve, Junior, how about you guys' perspective?
Well, I think it's worth noting this was the last true 1.5 miles before the playoffs. This was the time to show what you had before you enter the playoffs, head to Las Vegas, and see what you got. The summer has a variety of racetracks. It's hard to improve your equipment, but I agree. The Penske cars took a step up. Right now, I think they're perhaps the next closest group to those 3 guys that win all the races.
Yeah, it's hard. One thing that I've learned being in the booth already is it's hard to really pinpoint which one of the Big Three is the best car right now, because it seems like each week one of them kind of shows up and outruns the others. So it's hard to tell who has the advantage. We'll be watching that pretty close as we get to Vegas. But also, like Jeff said, like, who's the guy that's going to fill that 4th slot? I feel like the odds are great that the Big Three are going to get all the way to Homestead with the playoff points that they have. Who's the guy that's going to be number 4? Clint Boyer has some playoff points. If he wins another race or 2, he could put himself in position to do that and have the best odds to be that 4th driver. But we're seeing some speed out of some other cars too that can make that happen.
Yeah, and down the playoff grid, Rick, it's getting tight down there at 16. We've seen a couple drivers make gains, a couple other drivers lose some points.
Definitely want to celebrate, though, what Martin Truex Jr. was able to do here tonight. An absolute dominating performance. Let's go to Krista, Kyle, and DJ for more post-race coverage.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. The victory lanes
telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.